I'll put it up there later. Yep, all the notifications are going off now.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. As you join us, if you could say hi, because we don't know who's here, because that's how YouTube works. So say hi and say where you are watching from. We got a handful of people in here already. I love when it's been less than a minute and a bunch of people jump in. It makes me happy. I swear, like, okay, so when I started being an OMO, it was about a year ago. And when we had to like do this, I was like so nervous. And I don't know why, because I'm a public speaking type person anyway. But like having a YouTube channel like freaked me out. So
Really?
yeah, I'm not freaked out anymore. I'm still like when people watch, I'm like, I don't think that'll ever go away though. I'm so
Leo gang and be like, look at me. I'm like, I'm all about it. I'm like, yes,
yeah.
let's talk.
I'm
Let's
so
share the wealth of knowledge.
simple. I'm so simple. Hello, Priestess Omo Shule
Hello.
from the DC area. Hello, Bill, my baby Bill from Tampa. We got 7 people in here now, y'all. Say, just say hi and where you're watching from. You can say planet Earth too. That's fine. Christine from Connecticut. Hey. So I'm gonna tell y'all what I just told Nicole is that I wrote a lot for this class, kind of like more like stuff that I wouldn't normally talk about, stuff I actually had to look up and like do some research on. I wrote a lot of stuff, and it's not even near as much as I wanted to talk about. So we may veer off, and that's fine, because Nicole and I watched this video. And we are going to talk about that.
Yes.
A little later in it. But hello, somebody here from Chi-Town. And Kay is here tuning in from Oregon. Hey. Yes, you finally caught alive. Yeah. Love it. I actually like these lives. I like doing the pre-recorded ones too. But these live ones really, I love the audience interaction. I love being able to talk to y'all and have somebody talking back instead of me staring at my reflection in the camera. Like, I'm a Leo, but I'm not like the vain type of Leo where I'm like, oh, look at me. I'm not that version of a Leo.
I am. It's me.
Although this Leo moon that's coming tomorrow.
Right? I feel great. I'm like, this Leo moon come through. I'm like,
right?
I think Brittany was asking about it earlier, like how people are feeling about this moon. I'm like,
I'm loving it. I'm ready.
Me too. It's a vibe.
Let's go. All right, we got 10 people in here, but only a few people says hey. So say hey and say where you from real quick, and then we'll get started. It's only been 3 minutes. We're going to give people 2 more minutes. So that's 2 more minutes for y'all to say hey. I know it's on like a delay. It's like a 10-second delay between what I say and what y'all hear. So, hi, Wakanda. Great day. I know who that is. Dang, I forgot her real name that quick. But she's in the outreach program. Mm-hmm. Hey, it's Yana from Philly. Ooh, child. Oh, my gosh. So while we wait on people to come in, we can talk about Saturday Morning Groove this morning. So for those of you who don't know, before I officially start this, for those of you who don't know who are watching, every Saturday morning, I facilitate something called Saturday Morning Groove in our Discord. But if you're not on Discord, you can still join anyway, but because it's free. And it's just a free fitness class. And we start off, we do a meditation, we do a stretch to a song. It could be a gospel song. It could be a ratchet song. It could be Cuff It Wetter by Beyonce that just got released yesterday like we was today. It could be anything, right? Just something to get us moving, right? And then we do something. So sometimes it's a freestyle dance class. Sometimes I teach a dance, like a specific like line dance. Sometimes we do chakra yoga. There's one very specific person that I use that does chakra yoga, and she's Black. And so I will, do chakra yoga with her. There's another lady who's not Black, but I like her, and she has different types of yoga. And so sometimes we'll do that. Today, just while I was scrolling this morning, I found an ab workout, right? It was only a 15-minute ab workout, and we were all done. Okay. Done. But it was great because it really helped work with that. Hi, Omi Yemi. Yes. Hi, Kamara from Texas. Hi, Ash. Hey, Ash. But y'all, we were done. But it felt like my arms still kind of like tender and sore right here because we were doing a lot of like up or down with our arms. And so this part is kind of like, so my abs don't really hurt, but this part hurts. But child,
I was too distracted with the music to get most of it done. I was in there.
And so they weren't doing the movement to the music. So my goofy ass is like doing it on beat because I don't know how to be off beat. Right. But then I'm looking at them like, oh, I'm really off. So let me get back on track with what they're doing. And then it was off beat, and my body's like, no, bitch, we on beat. We don't do this. You got a little white DNA, but you ain't white. You gonna be on beat, ho. Anyway, all is one. Hi, Oyabayo. Hi, Paige. All right, so we're gonna get started. So, hello, everyone. I am Omowawari Ogbonyomi. I am a goddaughter of Reverend Priestess Iyanifa Oshun Funke. That's a lot. That's not even her whole name. Anyway, I am a staff member at the Orisha Hoodoo Institute. I'm a staff member of Black Spectrum Network and the Voodoo Institute. I moderate for a lot of the Facebook communities. Some are not in BSN, but most are. I own 2 businesses, including Enchanted Vibes. I'm working on getting my physical store open, so that's going to be great. I have 2 kids. I got family and stuff, whatever. And I'm here, and we're going to talk about something fun today. But I am joined by my wonderful, beautiful, elegant Nicole. I'll let Nicole introduce herself real quick.
Thank you, my Leo sister. Okay, so my name is Nicole Gibson. I am a priestess in training, essentially, at Orisha Hoodoo Institute. And I have been like in that community with BSN and OHI for almost 2 years now, but I just joined the training mentorship about 2 weeks ago. It's already been a game changer. I'm so excited to be here and talking about the various things that we talk about. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in California. I am also a Reiki 2 practitioner. I have my own business, Gibson Consulting and Counseling Services, where I can see clients through therapy and Reiki, but I also provide therapy through a company called Deeper Than Color, and it's out of Oakland. It is Black owned. Most of the clinicians are Black. It is very, very social justice oriented. So I really like that company as well. And I'm happy to be here talking about some sexy things.
So a lot of this class is going to be informational, right? But we are going to talk about some other stuff. And so that's just that. And I see Wells comes easily. Audiobooks says they're in the Facebook group. So welcome. I don't know your. Oh, there, Kamara. Okay, Kamora. That's a O. Kamora. Got it. Welcome. Because I haven't seen you in here before, so welcome. I'm excited that you are here. And thank you, Sasha, for subscribing, because that just popped up on my phone as I go to open my notes. So, Nicole, jump in at any time. Okay. We are going to talk about the therapy part related to this later. We're just going to get some stuff out the way.
Yes.
And there's a weird noise. I can't tell where it's coming from. I think it's coming from me. Let me go check. Hold on. I still hear it, so it's not me. But do you have a fan on? Is that what it is?
No.
Oh.
I think a plane just went by. A little
Oh, I might be
emo-
hearing that. Sometimes these ears, sometimes mom ears kick in and you
right. Here we're like 2 apartments
you're not
down.
supposed to hear anything. um, I have a running sink, and so that noise bothers me. So I had to go push my thing over. I need one of the washers replaced. It's really annoying. So, first thing I'm going to say, because we're talking about sex, we're talking about sexuality, religion, things like that. So, the first statement that I am going to make, because I don't want there to be any confusion when we start talking in later, because it's going to come up again later. Um, and I want to like dispel a big rumor that's been going around in the LGBTQ plus community and outside of it. So I'm going to preface this by saying I in no way, shape, or form condone pedophilia in any version of it, whether it's the 17-year-old and a 30-year-old or a 6-year-old, and none of it. None of it is okay. And they are not part of the LGBTQ community plus community. That was like a rumor that was started by people who just wanted to cause chaos and confusion. At no point has anyone in the actual community been like, let's add pedophiles. Never happened. Um, and it was kind of like a tactic. The plan was probably to out gay men because it is this big perception that gay men are all pedophiles, and that's not it's not the case. Um, and so that was their goal, was like, ooh, this will get them to say, as soon as they accept this, we can prove that they're pedophiles. But that's not what happened. And instead, it was the reverse, where 90% of gay men were like, no, absolutely not. This is false. We're not doing this. And then some of them even went on to say how they were victims of a pedophile, and how it traumatized them and how they would never inflict that level of trauma onto another human because there's enough trauma to go around without adding that. And how they were molested in cases by straight men, and the things that come from that. So that's not really what this video is about, but I wanted to start off with saying, hail to the no. No one that is part of the community was ever part of that movement to add pedophiles to the community. There was never going to be a P added to that. It was never okay. That's a lie. It's a rumor. Please stop spreading the lie and the rumor. Okay, thanks. So, first, we're going to start by talking about, because it's not really in order, but kind of. So, we're going to start by talking about contraception and birth control. Anything that's a drug kind of like affects your hormones. And like the pill, starting young girls on the pill is like kind of actually a bad idea. It affects their hormones, and it also affects pheromones. So is everybody most people are familiar with pheromones because they think it attracts the opposite sex, which it does, but there is more to it than that. Essentially, pheromones are a hidden form of communication, and they send signals from an individual to another one of the same species, and this triggers a response in the individual receiving the signals, such as a hormonal change or a specific behavior. That's the scientific definition of a hormone. And so when you're 14, I think that noise is on my end. I'm going to turn this down and see. I think maybe my volume's up too loud. Okay. So what happens is those type of drugs where it affects your hormones and it uses the hormones in order to make you temporarily infertile. It has long-term effects. We know that. But some of the short-term effects are you're not really yourself because it's messing with your hormones now. As a teenager, that's not the best thing to be going on with your body when it's already got this flood of hormones going back and forth. And it can have impacts on mental health. Um, Birth control pills, certain versions of them, can cause depression. And so now you have to watch out for your already emo child being depressed. Um, so these are just things to look out for. If you have a child that's of that age, which I have one, I have a 14 about to be 15-year-old. Even though he's a boy, so he doesn't really have to worry about the pill. But I have a born female child who will eventually have to deal with this type of thing, even if they choose a different life path, right? So we just have to be careful about what we're actually giving to our kids. If there is another way, there's other parts of the conversation that are much better. Like, you don't just want to throw your kid on the pill. You don't want them to bring home a kid. You don't want them to end up pregnant, but you don't want to just throw your kid on the pill either, just because it's the safest, in your mind, the safest way to keep them from having a child. There are other ways. You don't, I would say, not even the shot. I had the shot. I got my first one when I was 18, right before I got married. My second one was 3 months later. My first one was fine. My second shot was 3 months later, as recommended, right? And 2 days before my husband's birthday, my period started. And that's in June. It was June 24th. And it didn't end until the middle of December. Only because my doctor, I never took the third one. So I was supposed to have my third one in September. Never took that one. I still had 3 months of a period after that, even though I didn't have that third dose. And it only stopped because my doctor put me back on the pill to help get rid of whatever the hell was happening. So then I was on the pill again for a little while. And then when I got off the pill, it took 2 years to get pregnant with my first son, 3 years to get pregnant with my second son, even though I wasn't on birth control. And my second son didn't even live. So the effects of that were still long lasting, even though I was really, truly on it for a short amount of time. But I was also very young. I was 18. And so affecting, even at 18, messing with your hormones like that is like, should be a last resort. It shouldn't be the first go-to thing if you can help it. But I got married and I didn't want to have a kid right away, right? And so it was the best option for me at that time because we didn't want to use condoms either. But really, condoms were the better option. They may have been a little bit more expensive because you have to pay for them, regularly. But for me personally, with the way my health ended up happening, that was not the best course of action. So I would say talk to your kids, and before the decision is made to really take any type of hormone, really look into what the long-term effects of that are and how it truly may change them. And if they notice something that is irregular and they don't like it, just take them off of it and find something else to do.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Also be just be wary about that stuff in general, regardless of your age. Because I took the Depo shot at 21 and didn't really have like issues with it. But I took it again maybe in like my early 30s. I gained 60 pounds in 3 months. I had a period every day for 3 months. And, I can tell it impacts your fertility and things, especially if you're already having children, like when you're over the age of 35 or something like that. So when we talk about contraception, you also have to remember, like, medically, how Black women in particular are treated just by doctor. Like, we usually don't get like the best of suggestions in a lot of ways. So it's always like, err on the side of caution when it comes to your fertility or anything around that, because it's just, I would not totally rely on anything that's hormonal, because the lasting effects just don't, like, we just don't really know how bad it is, and it can be for years. Like, decades of the after effects of some of these contraceptives.
Absolutely. And I kind of wanted to start with that because a lot of people won't watch this whole video. And so I'm putting like some of the heady stuff at the front and all the weird shit at the back so that hopefully people like really at least get halfway through and get what I really, really want to get across. And then all the other extra stuff will just be extra information, things that you didn't know, because I learned a freaking lot when doing the research for this class. But yeah, just use condoms as much as possible. Like, I know people don't like them and they say it doesn't feel the same. Listen here. I'd rather feel the slight difference of that because it really is truly slight. For men, it's a little bit different because they don't feel like all the wetness and things like that. So I get it. But at the same time, is that man's happiness and wet penis worth your life or worth your fertility or worth like your happiness because you're going to be, you might end up, with some type of depression? It's really not, especially if it's not somebody that you're not even in a full-blown relationship with.
And realistically, they make so many condoms that are like, for that very reason about like the comfort, and it feels like you're not wearing one kind of thing. So like at this point, there's no excuse. There's too many options.
I'm just saying the real difference for men is not being able to feel the wetness. But when you're not on those hormones and you have the proper diet, he gonna feel that wetness anyway. I'm just saying.
Get your life together.
Baby, it's not real pineapple juice, but drink it. Drink water, like real water. Don't be drinking high sugar water. Drink real water. Eat fruits and vegetables, like eat real food. Don't eat as much processed food. That affects your hormones too. And people don't realize that all that affects libido. When you eat shitty, your libido is affected. So, feed that man some carrots. Because we have a day called Carrot Day. I'm not going to explain it to y'all, but this happened. We've been together almost 5 years. So this was within the first year of us being together and the first time that we lived together. Child, feed that man some carrots. They could be cooked. They could be raw. It don't even fucking matter. Make him some pot roast with lots of carrots and make sure that he eats at least 5 of them hoes. Just give me little baby carrots. Eat that. He won't give a damn about no condom after that.
You won't say, huh, Amber? Just taking notes.
Yes, girl. Carrots. Put that shit in everything. Put it in, so how I would hide vegetables from my kids is that I would basically put them in a food processor and obliterate them and then put it in the spaghetti sauce. So the flavor was there, but not the actual thing, especially with green peppers. Because I hated a green pepper, but like the flavor of green pepper is cool, but not like a green pepper. I don't know. So beet juice, blackberries, smoothies work best. Okay, chef. Okay, Chef Justin, do it. So, Kay, I won't say that it'll make them stay up, but it has really good effects. It can affect length and thickness and durability. That's what I'm gonna say. But you can put carrots in smoothies. Absolutely. I've done it. Like if you obliterate them bitches and put it in a smoothie, it's good for you anyway. Carrots are good for you. So really you need them anyway. But since we talk about sex, go ahead and get that man some carrots. And you eat all the fruit. Females, women, ladies, eat some damn fruit and drink water. That Henny and chicken wing diet ain't good for the taste of your pussy.
You know what? Henny and chicken.
This is how we're veering off, right? Okay. I'm just gonna say this right now. Henny and chicken wings. Okay. What's it? Casamigos, Patron 1800, Don Julio, Jose Cuervo, Terramana, although I love and miss it very much because I can't drink no more. But all them things, yes, they taste good, but drink some water. Okay. Drink some water, eat some fruit. Don't have all the processed things. Your pussy and whoever's face is in it, they will thank you.
And even if you don't like just water, like regular water, like even get the sparkling water, get something, drink tea. Like I have the iced tea that you could like that, get your water in however you can. Cause like I like water is, there's other variations of just than just plain water. Cause
with some tea.
Yeah.
Tea is okay. Or get one of those, you can get certain flavorings that don't have like high fructose corn syrup in them and stuff like that. Like you can get natural tea sweeteners. You could put, so one of my favorite things, especially in the winter, is hot water with lemon and honey. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. And it's hydrating. It helps clean out your system because of the lemon. And the honey adds like a little bit of sweetness, but honey's not like the worst thing for you, right? Yeah. So do that. Honey and water helps the yoni. See? There we go. That's Kimura.
At least brush your tongue.
At least brush your tongue. Listen, I got one of them tongue scraper things,
Me
baby.
Too. Get in there.
And we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. If he's rolling a blunt, let him roll that blunt, smoke that blunt, and then go wash his hands before he starts sticking them hands all in your coochie. Okay? Because you're literally going to put that tobacco is getting on your labia. Stop that. Stop doing that. Stop it. You may not see the effect right away, but then after a while, you'll start to maybe possibly develop a scent or a little itch, a little twang.
pH balance all off.
And then you have to like fix it. Oh yeah, spike in the water with juice. Oh, my boyfriend bought me this cup a few years ago, and I absolutely love it. They had them at Dollar Tree, and they get them around this time, so make sure you look for them. They have cups that have like a filter thing in the middle,
infusion kind of thing.
Put fruit in that thing. Let it sit in the refrigerator for 24 hours to infuse the water with the fruit, and it's not like super great tasting, but it's not water. And then you can put honey in it. If you want to, you could put sugar, but please don't use honey. Same thing with tea. Use honey. Please don't. I mean, go ahead, but please don't. But it's like really, really good for you because now you're getting all the nutrients and stuff from the fruit. And then you could turn around and use that fruit, put it in a damn smoothie and put, I use like almond milk or some other type of milk that's not real milk, like because cow milk is really horrible for you on several levels. So I use like an almond milk or something like that. Some people use oat milk in their smoothies to kind of give it that thickness. And you can use an avocado as well to give it like as a replace for ice cream or yogurt. If you want to do the non-dairy version, use like half an avocado. And it is actually so good because you can't really taste that avocado. It's really, really good. Honey or agave, lemon, lime, mint, and cucumber. Please wash the hands. Yes, please wash the hands and the mouth. Brush the teeth, all the things. And think about this. If you are going down on your person, and then they turn around and stick their phallus inside of you. Everything that was in your mouth is now on the phallus.
Like help yourself.
If you just got done eating a whole perch dinner with macaroni and cheese and green beans and whatever the fuck else, and then you put your mouth on the phallus and the phallus went in your coochie, What you think is in your coochie? I'm waiting for these
Tennessee
comments.
and mac and cheese.
Right, the mac and cheese sound is not from the mac and cheese in your mouth. That's not how that works. So I just needed to. We needed to. It needed to be said because it needed to be said. Um, Kay put them faces up there. Hold on, wait. I'm gonna highlight that one because that's funny. There's that. No ATMs or Coochie Mac. Let me just randomly say that now. Coochie Mac. Thank you, Kimora, for that because that was funny. So since we're talking about like actual sex, body counts. We're about to talk about body count real quick. I feel like this is the dumbest statistic of all time for a few reasons. So I know people who have had sex with 20, 30, 40, 50, 11 people. I know people who've only had sex with 5 or less people, right? I fall in the second category because I got married really young. I was in a committed relationship. And then as soon as I was out of that relationship, my boyfriend was like, "Oh, you free?" Yeah. Right? Yanked me up. And so I've only had sex with 3 men my whole life. And as an actual like sexual experience, like a real one with the female, just one. I had other ones as a kid, but they didn't count because I didn't touch no coochie. So to me, that wasn't really a sexual experience. There was no coochies involved. So it wasn't really, there wasn't nothing happening. Sucking titties don't really count. Nothing happened. So anyway, so even though I have a very low body count, I can guarantee you that I have way more sexual experience than most people. And here's why. I got married at 18 and we were actively married for 14 years. We had sex anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week. That is over 2,000 times of having sex in 14 years. Now, someone who's had sex with 40 people, we'll say we've had 21 night stands, which is a high number. Okay. But we'll just say they had 21 night stands. That's 20 people. And then they had 20 people where they had sex with them about 5 times. So that's 100. So now we're at 120. And then they were in 6 real relationships and they had sex with those people 100 times each. So that's only 600 added to that. So now we're only at 720 times that one person has had sex, although it's been with 46 different people. Whereas me, just the one person, I had sex with that one person over 2,000 times. So technically, who has more mileage? Me, who was married and had a very healthy sexual relationship with my husband, or somebody who's had sex with 46 people? It's technically me. And I'm okay with it. I'm not upset. Same thing with like my boyfriend now. We've been together 4.5 years. Of that 4.5 years, because we have sex a lot. We're probably at like we're probably at like 1,000 already, and we haven't even lived together for most of that time. So body count is really relative because if you had sex with 10 people, but only 2 of them were actual relationships, you haven't had that much sex. Yes, there were people, there was multiple people, but there wasn't a lot of sex. And I think this is part of the reason why people actually don't know how to have sex, and people don't know what they like, and people don't know how to please other people because they actually don't have sexual experience. They have a body count. They have a high body count, quotes. They have a multiple number body count, right? A number above 10, maybe a number above 20, maybe even a number above 40 or 50, but they don't actually have sexual experience because it's 2 pumps and we're done, right? In some cases. Unfortunately. I'm so sorry, guys. Um, and so you never got a chance to learn that person. You never got a chance to learn what people like. You never got a chance to learn what you like unless you masturbate, right? And then there's still this whole taboo about masturbation where people are like, self pleasure, it's weird. You better figure out how that pussy works. How you gonna tell?
Nobody like knows you better than you. You better get in there.
How you gonna tell somebody else how it works if you don't know how it works? Same thing for guys with masturbation. How are you going to tell a female the proper rhythm that you prefer if you don't know the rhythm because you've never tried to figure it out? I can make it. Listen, 60 seconds or less for myself. I've done it. I timed it once. I was like, wait a minute. Let me see. 60 seconds or less because I know what I like. I don't need to spend all this time. I'm just trying to get this done with because I woke up. He wasn't here because he had already went to work. And I'm like, God damn, I'm not going to be able to function today. So let me take care of this real quick. 60 seconds or less. And I can go about my day and be great. Okay? You have to know what you actually like. While we worried about body counts, let me see them test results. Baby, listen. And that's why I said condoms are better anyway. Condoms will, in most cases, protect you from getting a disease. Birth control ain't helping you. You still gonna get gonorrhea. You still gonna clap it up. Okay?
Clap.
That's not changing. Okay? It's not changing at all. Wear condoms. That's the problem now. You gonna get trichomonas, ho. That's the most common STD, but just because it's curable, people don't really talk about it. Pussy smelling and itching, crotch just all discombobulated because you got trichomonas. Because you or the other person wasn't very clean. And here we are. Now you passing trichomonas off to people. And yeah, it's not deadly, but it's still not good for you to have it. Mm-hmm. You don't want it. Who wants that? Nobody.
Well, I think the idea, like going back to body count, like I know a lot of people where it's like if their number is high, it's either one because they didn't really get married young, or a lot of times it's like you come from like this restrictive household. So as soon as they're able to move out of the house, they're like, I want all the sex, that I can get my hands on. And it's true, most of them are like one night stands. You're not really getting any kind of real experience. And it also gets intertwined with like shame about your body, shame about enjoying pleasure, especially if you've ever been sexually abused. There's a lot of hangups that can come around like your body and enjoying pleasure. So it's just really important to find out what you like. The body count don't matter. Like, I don't know anybody that isn't an actual adult that like cares about body count. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's like, really young, child kind of, or like teenager kind of concept. Like, I don't know any adult who's like, let me get your numbers. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm like, I haven't encountered, I am old. I'm in my 40s. So maybe that's just why I don't hear people asking about.
To me, it's childish as hell. So. And right here, that's what I was finna say. Amber, that's what I was finna say.
I guess.
I almost called you by the name that you use on Facebook, but I know exactly who you are. Because we've been like, listen.
If they're asking, it's like, well, what are you worried? Well, I mean, I guess that's right. I mean, the insecurity. It's like, are you worried about comparison too? Because then I think of that movie 4 Weddings and a Funeral, where she was talking about like she had 30 lovers and she like outlined all of them. And you could just see his face. He was like mortified at the idea that she had like such a high number. That's like,
that don't mean nothing.
Like you still gonna try to get some though, so I get
really doesn't mean anything. Let me tell you why. So my husband and I separated in 2010. I moved out the house and everything. and I had sex with somebody who I knew for a few years. And this person had a high body count in the 60s, baby, the 60s. Um, and first of all, I was used to a certain thing. And then I'm with this person who has a high body count, and I know he do because he been telling me all the dirt because we're real friends for a long time. And so he's been telling me all the shit he do. So I know about him, right? I'm not surprised by anything. And that's where we always say honesty. If you're honest, some females really don't care. Just be honest. Because I didn't care. It didn't have nothing to do with me. I wasn't trying to be his girlfriend. But we ended up having sex. And I was so disappointed. How was your body count in the 60s? How many of those were one night stands? How many actually came back for more? Why is your wife so pressed? About to be ex-wife, because he was also separated, living separate from his wife. So why is everybody like crawling over you? Because, sir, crowd. When I say I'm used to a certain thing, I'm not just talking about what happens during, but I'm just talking about size wise. And I'm just like, where is the rest, sir? So, I mean, it was cool because sex, feels good, and something in there is still going to feel good, even if it's not hitting the top of your coochie like you want. Even if it's just stuck in the canal and it don't go past it.
You can't make it upstream all the way.
Listen, he wasn't. I want something to touch my cervix. That's just how I am personally. And if it's halfway through the canal, I'm upset because where's the rest? Anyway, I was just like, how? All this body count, because again, I was still young. I had only had sex with one person up to this point. He was the second one. And I'm just like, huh? How? And you was married too.
Also a good segue into the idea of like, not only are you having a high body count, but like, are people coming back? And are women that you're sleeping with being honest about, hey, this is not as what it's cracked up to be? Because maybe he has a high body count because he's not getting return customers, as it were.
He's not getting return customers.
So, that goes into the whole thing too about knowing what you like and being honest and being like, hey, it's not giving what it was supposed to have gave. What's wrong? That ties into your own confidence level and what it is that you know about what you like and what you don't like. I know you told him, or at least questioned in some kind of way.
I didn't. I was in disbelief. And I was still really, really young.
Are you like that Viola Davis? What was it, Viola Davis? One where she just put that meme where she just picks up her purse and walks away. I'm done.
Listen,
get me out of here.
I was still really young. I wasn't even 25. I was only 24 when this happened, and I had only had sex with one other man, so I didn't really. I was like, the math wasn't mathing, and that wasn't a saying yet because this was 2010. But I was just confused as fuck. But like, and so that was that, right? That did not last long. I gave him one more chance, like Biggie, and no, it wasn't going to happen. So then my husband and I, we had a conversation, and he was like, he wanted me to move back into the house and all this stuff. So I had to tell him because that's who I am as a person. I'm like, okay, that's fine. We can have this conversation, but I need you to know that I had sex with this other person. And so we had a conversation about that, and we still decided to reconcile. So then we were together for 8 more years after that, before we separated again. So we separated again, and I was talking to somebody. It was just talking, and started talking to my boyfriend. And then we had sex. And the first time, because I was so used to married sex, and there's a difference between married sex, boyfriend girlfriend sex, or just in casual sex. There are
A
differences.
million percent differences.
And so I was just like, oh, all right. It wasn't it wasn't like the second person at all. I wasn't disappointed at all. But it wasn't, again, it still wasn't what I was used to. And I remember talking to my friends about it, and it just it hadn't gotten there yet. It just, but we had to take time to get to learn each other. He doesn't have like a dumbass high body count, but it's definitely way higher than mine. Um, I knew we talked about it, and so I knew what his body count was. And I'm like, oh, I don't really care because it's before me, and I don't
They
anything
don't
before
exist if it was before you.
I don't care. As long as you're clean, I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't care how many people you had sex with before me. I really don't. So, and we were really good friends for a long time because we worked together. And so for months and months, we built a friendship. And so then feelings came, or at least on my end, feelings came after. So, and now I would say, because I've grown as a person, I've grown more sexually comfortable with myself. Our sex life is better than my married sex life because of experience. He had different experience than what my ex-husband had. And there was nothing wrong with my sex life with my ex-husband. But I'm not going to backtrack. But if I ever went back, he'd be like, where the fuck you learned that? Like, he'd be upset. Okay. Upset. And there's also some things that I've kind of picked up on and I've learned just by like observation. I'm big on observation that I haven't even broached yet with my boyfriend. And I told him that there was more, and he was like, more? How is there more? I said, well, I gotta save something for when we get married, sir. Because we done took what we thought was the limits and blew the top off those. So, sir, you just gonna have to wait. But like it's different now. I'm older and I'm more comfortable with myself as a sexual being, and therefore it has opened up more things. Also, he is more sexually explorative than my previous relationship. So things that I like, oh, maybe that, or maybe that, or maybe that, or things I had never even thought about, and then he just did. I'm like, oh, that's the thing. Let's do that. Like,
what more of that?
more of that. Like, just little stuff like that, because we're both very sexual people. So although it's not the cornerstone of our relationship, it's still a very, very important part of our relationship. And people who say that sex isn't important are motherfucking liars. And if we could be anything, I want us to be for fucking real.
They say it's usually not a big deal. It often has a reflection of how they feel about their own sexuality or sex life or current like sexual experiences. And it's like sex is just, it's something that, whether it's masturbation or with someone else, like it really is something that you just need in your life. Like it's not like it's not something that you should just be like, it's not a big deal, especially if you're in a relationship. Like if you're not having sex, then you might want to go see a therapist or something. Something is amiss if sex is not happening.
Yes, 1000%. Like, and you have to be with somebody who has the same sexual compatibility as you. So although I didn't have anything to complain about in my sexual relationship with my ex-husband, we weren't entirely sexually compatible. There's nothing wrong with it, but there were still things that were missing. And I'm sure he can name some things that I did or he wished I did. What neither one of us were perfect in that. In the relationship, and now we actually talk about this shit. Like, I have one of those games, one of them little card games. I don't have it down here. This is the nice version of it. Um, this is the regular couples edition, but the purple one is the intimate edition. And we just played this game like last week, like last Friday or something like that. And because we Thursday was a really bad day, and so Friday we were sitting talking, and I just grabbed them. And it's you basically you just read the cards and to the other person. One person reads, the other person answers, or you can both answer. There's no real rules to the game. Somebody answered the goddamn question. And it's questions of a sexual nature. And it really helps you figure out if there's something missing. You can now have that conversation because the card said it. The card said we got to talk about it. So now we got to talk about it. And there were certain questions where, like, there was one that said, and he pulled it and he was reading it to me for me to answer. And he said, "How can I make you come more often?" or something like that. And I'm like, I think the 7 to 10 times every time is enough. Like, I don't think I'm going to answer this question. I don't have an answer for this question because it don't apply to us. But we have a very healthy sexual relationship and we talk about it all the time. And people aren't.
That's why you have a healthy sexual relationship. You're talking about it. And it brings up another point about communication when it comes to sex. It's like, also remember how your partner takes in information and is able to communicate. Like, do you have to like send a text explaining what you want, or do they not respond well with like verbal conversations? Do you need to just be more visual and set a scene about this, leading up to sex? Like, figure out how your partner communicates and takes in information best, and cater your approach to your sexual experience with each other to that. Like, just like the love languages, like people have sex languages too.
Absolutely. Sex is important. We got to stop pretending like it's not. Also, and I'm going to say this, and some people aren't going to like it, and I don't care. Um, and I'm going to kind of talk about this in the Enchanting Your Children section, but we actually need to start having real conversations with our children about sex because sex ed in school is fucking them up. It's not teaching them anything. It's saying the penis goes in the vagina, and a baby. That is not sexual education at all. And so I'm not saying be like Jada Pinkett's grandma and teach them how to masturbate. I'm not I'm not saying to do that, okay? And I'm just saying have real conversations about masturbation first of all, because honestly, that's the safest thing. That's actually the thing you want them to do because for several reasons. One, if they masturbate, they learn their own body. So they can later learn what they like and don't like, and they can have a healthy sexual relationship in the future. We don't like to think about our kids having sex, but stop being stupid. Your kid's going to be fucking if they not already. Just stop being stupid. The second thing is, if they can please themselves, they're not going to be looking for outward attention to do the same thing. Because it's like, I don't have all these crazy hormones. I won't say they won't have any crazy hormones, but those urges will be lessened. They won't go away, but they'll be lessened because they can knock that out in, a couple minutes in the bathroom or in their room by themselves quietly, not have to talk to nobody, not have to cuddle, not have to listen to somebody complain and cry,
Snore.
not listen to somebody snore, not have to worry about a disease, not have to worry about pregnancy or STDs. So we really have to be better at talking to our kids about that.
And start with the proper terminology for
Yeah.
body parts.
Call it a
That
penis.
I
Call it a
cannot
vagina. It's
I
not a
cannot
weenie.
stress that enough. This will also, like, this is how there are situations where abuse can happen and nobody knows that it's going on because the children are not able to tell you the proper terminology about what is being violated. So I have a 5-year-old, she knows what a vagina is and what a penis is, and that like she doesn't like, and it actually like mortified my husband a little bit because he gets, he was not raised to like use the proper terminology. So he's like, why are we teaching her that right now? And I'm just like, yo, like she is in kindergarten. She needs to know what they are called because I don't want no shit with anybody like bothering my kid in any way, shape, or form and her not be able to tell me what's going on. So it start early, start young, talking to them about body parts, sexuality, and sex and masturbation. Like just, there's so many books and things like that for all the various ages. So like if you feel like you don't have the knowledge or even like how to explain it to them at whatever age they are, there's a bajillion books about it.
There is. And you can give them age appropriate answers. So, like, I make a point not to lie to my kids. I don't like lying in general, but especially not to my kids. It's a trauma response. I'm blunt with my kids because of a trauma response. But it's kind of worked because when it came to when my son was old enough to realize that I bleed, and it horrified him because he didn't understand the difference and he thought something was wrong. So I explained to him what a period was and that you're a boy, my friend. You don't have to worry about this. You're good. And once he realized that, and once he kind of understood what the process was, and I said, so what happens is every month a woman's body gets ready to be pregnant and have a baby. And if there's no baby, all the things that it was building for that baby, the home, it comes out until the next time, until the next month. That's how I explained it to a small person. He was like 3 or 4 when I had to explain it. And he understood. He was like, oh. And I said, it only happens with girls. So you're a boy, you have a penis, I have a vagina. It only happens with vaginas. And he's like, yay. So he was good. Then I have a child who was born female, right? And they, for a long time, were she. So she was born and, well, I was pregnant. And so I had to explain that to my small person at the time. And I didn't explain the process of it. I didn't do the lie where mommy and daddy loved each other so much that we felt that no, fuck all that. I didn't even go into that type of explanation because at the time he was only 4 when my living small person I was pregnant, but I was pregnant before that with my second son. And he knew about that one. And he was only 3 then. And so I wasn't going to go in depth, but I'm like, there's a baby in here. There's another one of you in here. And the easy way to explain how it was going to, I was like, he was like, how's the baby going to come out? And I said, it's going to come out of my vagina. Because again, I still use the words. He's 3 at this point. He knows what a vagina is. Like, it's going to come out of my vagina. He's like, you going to poop it out? And I'm like, the vagina is separate from the butt, but it will feel like I'm pooping the baby out. Yes. He said, you're going to poop it out. Yeah. I'm like, okay, baby. Whatever. So then by the time, the whole year goes by and I'm about to give birth to my small person now. And so when we didn't have to have this conversation again. And he didn't even ask how the baby get in there. Oh, I'll say that. He did. And I said, Daddy put him in there. And he was like, I say, at this point, you're too young to understand, so I'm not going to try to explain it to you. But Daddy put the baby in there. And that's all. He was like, okay. And then he went about his business. Like, you don't have to. Kids aren't that thought-provoking sometimes.
Yeah, they're not that inquisitive.
Okay. All right. And then they go back to playing with their toy or whatever the fuck they was doing before you brought up the fact that there's a baby in your belly. So you don't have to go in depth, especially with young kids. You can tell them, you're too young to understand this right now. We'll talk about this later. and they will be fine. You don't have to treat them like this human who doesn't understand words. They understand words. And if you tell them it's not something you're even old enough to understand right now, they might be for like 5 seconds, and then they're gonna go about their little life, and they're not gonna care anymore. I promise you, they're not gonna care. So anyway, talk to your damn kids. Please stop pretending with these kids talking about a stork done brought this baby. Because now every time they see a bird,
Wee wee
they
or
baby.
wee or whatever. Like that's not what it's
Stop
called.
telling them they hold hands, they gonna get cooties. Stop telling them that. Yes, there's COVID, so maybe they'll get but like stop. Just stop doing that shit. Stop doing it. Do you want to add anything while I read these comments?
No, I think that is really in line with. I think that'll be good to talk about in your chanting children's class because kids just need to know, and kids are far more perceptive than we really give them credit for. So it's like you're doing them a disservice if you try to like limit or withhold information, and they're gonna find out one way or the other. You want them to find out from their friends, or you want them to find out from you?
Well, that's what I tell my kids all the time. I don't want them to learn about sex from their stupid ass little friends who ain't never even had it, or have had it, once or 3 times. So, like, my son had a situation about a year ago. He was going through something, and he came to me. He didn't go to his daddy, who also has a penis. He came to me because of the conversations that we had, and I was like, I don't really know what to do with that because I don't have a penis. And I said, so I can ask your dad or I can ask Des. Which one? And I said, or you can ask too, and I don't have to be involved. It's up to you. Do you want me to ask, or do you want to ask? He was like, I want you to ask. And I said, okay. So do you want me to ask your dad, or do you want me to ask Des? Because there's options. There are men in his life that he has lived with. And sometimes you don't want it to be a parent. So it's good to have that extra adult person that knows them, that both you can talk to and they can talk to, that's not necessarily a parent, because then it gives them more options. Because certain things you just don't want to tell your mom, but you'll tell your aunt or your grandma, but you ain't gonna tell your mama. Right? And so I gave him the option. I can't even remember what his option was. I don't even remember what he said. I ended up asking both because I wanted to see if there was a different answer. And then we had the conversation about it, and everything was good. And there was I didn't feel the need to bring it up again after that. I'm not checking in like, oh, how's your penis doing? Like, I'm not. Let's not be weird about it, okay?
He'll come back if he has more questions.
If he has more questions, he'll come back. But I said this to them explicitly. I said, I'd rather you ask me than to ask your dumbass little friends, because they don't know nothing. And I told her, and I said specifically about sex, I didn't tell him the number. I said, but I was married to your dad. You have a brother at this time. You have a brother and a sister that came after you. Okay. And then I've been in this relationship. At that point, it was like 3.5 years. And I'm like, so who do you think knows more about sex? Me or your dumbass little friends?
The dumbass.
And he was like, definitely you. And I said, okay. I just want to make that clear. I said, so if you have a real question, I would rather you come ask me, or ask your dad, or ask Des, or ask an adult. Don't ask your dumbass little friends, because they don't know. And I said, and I am probably the only one that's going to tell you the truth, because that's just who I am as a person. I don't have very many filters on my mouth. Exactly. Okay. Ain't no telling what those kids will say. Ain't
They don't know nothing. They know
no
what they see on TV. And it's not
telling.
to disregard like the intellect of children. They are perceptive. Teens are very perceptive. They're, obviously, especially with social media and all the things that are out there for them to gather information from, it's not even more important for adults to be guiding their information about sex and contraception and all of those things, because it'll be the blind leading the blind out there. Like they'll go watch a damn TikTok video and think they, know how to put a condom on properly or know how to like. If you can't do it, if you're just like, I, as the parent, cannot stomach this conversation, I know you got at least one adult friend who can do it. At least one adult friend that your
One.
child knows and trusts and that would be willing to have a conversation with them. If you delegate, if you can't do it yourself, delegate it out to someone else. But someone in your close circle needs to be talking to your children about sex and sexuality and contraception, all the things that, might make a parent feel a little too shy to talk about. That's totally fine. Help, get a therapist. If you want to have a therapist be the one to have the conversation with your child about it,
It's
there are
almost
therapists who
always
do that.
free through the school. Like almost always is it free. Please put your kids in therapy. Please, please, please. I said this in the last one when we were talking about mental health because my son and my daughter, for different reasons, started acting out around the same time, right before she was going to kindergarten. Well, right before they were going to kindergarten. And I put them both in therapy. Fuck that. Both of them. Like, oh, y'all got therapy? Sign me up. What do I need to sign? What forms, what releases do you need? How many phone calls do I need to make? Just let me know. Because I'm not equipped to deal with all of that, right? Because I have my own trauma, especially at that time. I just separated from their father. We were still legally married. For some of those months, we were still living together. And so even though we were separated. And so I'm not equipped to handle certain things. I don't know all the tools and the techniques to get a child to stop acting crazy. Cause I'll just whoop your ass. Like, and that's not really gonna work. that's that's not how things actually get solved, right? Especially with small people. Putting your hands on them isn't going to fix anything. It's just going to give them different type of trauma.
And they're
So
gonna be upset, like even more mad at you. So they're really not gonna come
right,
talk to you.
especially depending upon who it is. Now I'm not saying don't snatch them up. Sometimes you gotta listen here, you. You might need to wrangle a child. But like beating kids, it's knowing what I know now, I'm glad that I didn't do that when they were like younger. Because the trauma that can come from that is absolutely crazy. And now when you think about it, like seriously, would you beat an adult because they didn't do what you were supposed to do? Like,
Right? Are
oh,
you
they spilled
going
some
to
juice.
work
You gonna go
and
there and punch your husband because he spilled some juice?
your coworker's not listening to you? You're just gonna smack him in the face? Like that really doesn't make
Right.
the concept. So it's like if they're old enough to understand words, then you can use your words. If they're too young to understand words, then hitting them is not going to make them understand.
Right. It's not
So
gonna do nothing but
it's
traumatize them.
not a win-win. But I do like in the comments talking about therapy. It's like you can call the number on your insurance plan or your insurance card. In California, I know. Well, actually, I think it's nationalpsychologytoday.com. You can find any therapist. You just filter by your insurance. Like at this point, we've all been in a pandemic for 3 years. Like this is a traumatic experience for collectively. So like,
Mhm.
especially for the children who can't see their friends and have to wear masks to school and like all that stuff. Even if your kids are perfectly fine right now, I still will put everybody in therapy at some point within the next couple of months, because next month is 3 years since we had our first lockdown in the
Yeah,
pandemic and everyone was
it
freaking out
is.
about toilet paper. So like it's been 3 years. We need therapy, we need healing, we need, everybody needs therapy. I don't care. At least once. I know I may be biased because I am a therapist, but I've also used other tools outside of therapy. It doesn't have to be a one stop shop or like one size fits all kind of thing, but I don't know anybody who can't benefit from at least a couple of sessions of therapy.
Yes. And we're going to talk about sexual therapy too. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So I said that. I kind of talked about the experience part. And then the class next week is going to be lovers and friends. And so we'll go more in depth about some sexual relationships between individuals. We're going to do all that next week. So make sure that it's already on the channel. Just hit the little remind me button so that you get an alert that'll remind you when it's about to happen, and then when I actually go live, it tells you. So marriage. Again, we're going to talk about a good portion of this next week, but we're going to talk about the religious part of marriage real quick, or the spiritual part of marriage. So in Ohio, and I just saw this billboard the other day, and I made sure that I put it in these notes so I can remember to talk about it. In Ohio, there is a billboard that says holy matrimony is between one man and one woman. And then it has like the name of some website for some church or something like that. I've never gone to the website because fuck you. So, and it's like sprinkled around coming in and out of Columbus for sure, because I live in the capital. So coming in and out of Columbus, I've seen it. I've seen it on my way to St. Louis on 70. I feel like I've seen it on 71 South going towards Kentucky when I was going to Atlanta. I've seen it in a couple of different places. I don't go east on the freeway, like going towards Pennsylvania. I haven't gone that way as an adult very far. So once you get outside of the main city and you're in those rural areas, that's really where it kicks in with the Bible Belt bullshit. And so to our discussion about sexuality and less about sex, I just feel like the whole premise that marriage can only be between a man and a woman is the most asinine thing ever. Because it's like saying that your love for humanity in general, but particularly your romantic love for someone, is invalid if one of you is not male and one of you is female. And that God doesn't approve. He's shaking his finger at you. He is shaking
Right.
his finger at you. We're going to talk about why I said that later. He is shaking his finger at you because you're not doing what you were meant to do. And I'm going to just say that if everybody married the opposite sex and had kids, the planet would be fucking overrun with humans and disgusting. We
We're
need,
almost there.
we're almost there already. We need people in same-sex relationships and marriages because it's keeping population control. And let's not pretend like we don't need some fucking population control, because we do. It's already out of control. We're already doing too much. We are destroying the freaking planet. And you want everybody to procreate and have kids? Y'all sit up here and stare at people who are in their 30s and 40s without kids. When you gonna have some kids? Fuck you. Mind your business. Like, what? Maybe they tried to have kids. Maybe they're infertile, Becky. Maybe you should leave her the fuck alone. Maybe you should mind your own coochie. Maybe
Well,
you
it's
should
usually
work.
the same people who are asking about that are the same ones who are like, only a man and a woman should be together. It's usually they usually overlap. The nosy ones. Why are you all over here in my bed? Why are you
And
there?
and we're going to talk about this too. That is only actually a Christian ideal. There are many religions, many groups of people before Christianity kind of like took over that that was not a thing. Like in most cases, they didn't really care about homosexual. Like, oh, you fucked a guy, okay. So you gonna go get the sheep or nah? Like, we hungry in here. You gonna you gonna go out there and you go out there and get some food? I'm just did you cook today? I'm just saying. That's how life actually happened. Who you were having sex with really didn't matter. And even in marriage, people would be married and have other sexual things going on because the purpose of marriage is, and I will say that there was nothing wrong with marriage. It didn't affect their marriage at all. Like in some cases, the female may have felt some type of way, or the male may have felt some type of way. But in most cases, all this jealousy and stuff we have now, that wasn't a fucking thing back then. Because everybody had somebody on the side. Nobody really fucking cared. As long as you came home when you were supposed to come home and you taking care of these motherfucking kids and you bringing in the bacon, literally go kill that pig. We're hungry. Like it wasn't such a big deal. And then Christianity and modern times came up. Now all of a sudden, everybody cares, which is fine. And if you care, you care. I prefer monogamy. I don't want my boyfriend out here fucking bitches. I, just, I don't. I don't. I prefer a one-on-one relationship. However, comma, if he really want to fuck a bitch, as long as she cute, bring her to the house. Let's go. Like we can do this together. I'm like, and actually, we've actually had a threesome. And he let me pick the female, and I picked, and it was a good ass choice. And we're happy with it. With somebody we both knew, we still maintain our separate relationship with this person that is not sexual, and it's all good. I'm not worried about them going off and doing some shit because I picked wisely. And that's part of the thing that people aren't doing either. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna pick some random bitch. I don't know.
Don't do it.
Don't do that neither. Pick somebody that you can trust, A, to keep their motherfucking mouth shut. Like, say you had a threesome, but don't tell who it's with. To this day, nobody knows who that female is. To this day, nobody knows who that girl is. They know I had one. They know I know her. They don't know how I know her. They don't know where I met her. They don't know how long I've known her. They don't know what she looked like. They don't know her name. To this day. And she know how to keep her motherfucking mouth shut. So she ain't, I don't think she's told nobody either, because they ain't come to me and said nothing. And bare minimum, they know how to keep their mouth shut. That's all. Get a trustworthy person. Don't be out here fucking random bitches. That's how people get in trouble. And that's how you get diseases. Like, why are y'all doing this? Get somebody you know that you can have a real conversation about sex with, just like you would your partner. And then know that that person gonna keep their mouth shut, and they ain't gonna try and bribe you later or be talking about you like, your pussy tastes funny. Like, come on.
Well, you should not be even having anyone on the side if you can't even communicate with your partner about sex. Exactly. Or be comfortable with masturbation or any of those things. Like, don't get adventurous if you can't even take care of yourself first and have an open dialogue with your partner.
Exactly.
Because you will pick some random person for a threesome and it's going to implode your life. So don't do it.
It's going to implode your life because you don't know the intentions of that person either. So that person can be like, ooh, I kind of like that. Mm-hmm. They might get something they ain't never had before. And now this person, you
now you stuck. They're outside in the bushes with their binoculars.
Listen. I don't need a stalker, and I don't want to have to fight nobody. Because if he's not the one encouraging it, now I have a problem with you. Because I would never blame the other girl if he's encouraging it. But if he's not encouraging it and you just fucking crazy, now we have a problem. and you don't ever want to have a problem with me, that's never good for your health, ever. Ever. It's not good for your life and your prosperity, your health, or your wealth. You need to chill the fuck out. I'm just saying. So, again, have these conversations. Um, but then also, like in indigenous cultures, they have, 3, 4, 5 wives. And it's not a threat to the marriage whatsoever because there are rules that are put in this process. And it's not just about people going out here and just fucking whoever they want and then coming back with kids. Like there is a process. And even in those situations, if whomever goes outside of the marriage that is not part of the predetermined situation, like they get in trouble. And some of those cultures will fucking stone you. Like you had 3 wives and you went over here and fucked this other raggedy bitch and got her pregnant. The 3 wasn't enough. So you had, instead of making her the 4th wife, you went out here and fucked her outside of the realm. They will still treat that person like a fucking pariah, as they should, because they didn't honor the agreement. As long as there's an agreement, whoever you decide to bring into your marriage is y'all's business. And depending upon where you live, if you decide to have a whole extra person in your marriage, that's y'all's business. As long as there's an agreement, it's it, I don't give a damn. It's not hurting me. I'm not mad at polygamy or polyamory. I don't give a damn. That's not my chosen path. No, that's a strong no for me. But I'm not going to sit up here and impose my will on everybody else just because I like monogamy. Good day.
Yeah,
Have fun.
please stop using religion and spirituality as a dagger to try to like cut people down. That's what I cannot stomach. It's like the world would just be happier if everyone just stayed in your lane. Don't worry about what the next person is doing. I promise you, it does not matter. If they're not hurting you, if they're not stealing from you, if they're not kicking in your door and trying to like beat you up, then why do you care who is marrying who? Why do you care how many wives they have, or if it's a same-sex couple? Like, just why do you care? Just stop
Oh,
it.
why do you
Stop
care? Why do we
it.
care?
Nobody cares.
And going back to like kind of with the kids thing, so I have my youngest prefers they them pronouns. So it's taken me a little bit minute. Sometimes I still say she, and I'm like, dang, I gotta stop doing that. And I'll apologize when I say it to them and they hear it. Like, I'm sorry, baby. I'm still trying to figure it out. That's all you gotta do. It's not hurting me to say they them instead of she her. It's not. It's really not. Is it a learning curve? Is it something I have to keep reminding myself to do? Yes. But in the long run, is it hurting me? No, not even a little bit. And it's better for their mental health that I am recognizing them as a person, not as a possession, which a lot of people like to take possession of their children. Um, and it's just, which is horrible. That's a whole other conversation. Um, but it's better for their mental health that I recognize them as a person and they feel comfortable and safe in who they are as a person so they don't grow up to be an adult who has to deal with some fucked up trauma from childhood because they felt unseen by their parents. And this goes for all children who are not straight children. Sometimes, especially with boys, a lot of times they have some tendencies, and you like, and you kind of look sideways. And like most little boys, yeah, they may wear your heels and want their nails painted and little silly stuff like that. And I don't give a damn. If my son wanted, I'm like, go ahead. Oh, you want your what color we painting your nails today? And then now he's 15 and he's straight. It didn't have any impact on him as a person and his sexuality to get his nails painted or to put my shoes on and walk around the living room. It wasn't going to make him gay. because he just wasn't gay.
Because you are born with your own sexuality. Please, please. I want to beg people to truly understand that. Think back to your own sexuality discovery. It was not influenced by a television show or a video game or your friends or something like that. You're either born heterosexual or some other sexual orientation. Like, you're born that way. Do not think, because people always like, well, they shouldn't make decisions until they're 18, and like, your sexuality before you're 18. you know your young person knows their pronouns already and is not 18. Like, this is, it drives me crazy.
It
I
drives me
absolutely
crazy.
cannot stand it when people are like, "You're too young to know what you like." No,
Man, I've been liking titties since before I knew what a penis was. I'm gonna tell you that right the fuck now. I've been liking titties. The first time I was like, ooh, got the little tinkle, it was some titties. It wasn't a penis. I didn't even know what gay was. I didn't know that girls like girls and boys like boys and it was called gay. I didn't know that. All I know is I saw some titties and I said,
like, this is nice. What's that?
I want those.
To it.
I don't have those. I want to play with them. But it was more like I want to play with them and put them in my mouth. Like and I was young. Super young. I knew about sex way too early for other reasons involved with my trauma. And I still liked females first. So that when I say I'm bisexual, I mean that shit. I truly mean that shit because I love titties. I love a nice booty, but I don't like a booty on a dude. I don't care about a dude's booty. That don't mean nothing to me. I don't look at my boyfriend's butt when we be in the shower and be like, no, I'm looking at his chest because something about a man's chest and the collarbone, this part right here, and the V if they have it, and the penis itself, and the way their arms are cut when they're muscular, I love all that shit. So when I say I'm truly bisexual, I am truly bisexual. I want all that shit.
Smorgasbord. Give it all to me.
Okay? I want all that shit. Okay? Brittany said titties are great. Yes, they are.
My husband is
Yes.
obsessed, and I'm like, I don't understand. They're like bags of fat. Like, why are you so intrigued?
I don't know
Himself.
about them. They just and they ain't even gotta be cute or whatever. Cause I'm not gonna care if my eyes are closed and it's in my mouth. I don't care what they look like. They titties. And when you got a shirt on, they all look good.
But
And
this is
most
the
of us
best.
look horrible naked. Let's just be honest. Clothes really do things to accentuate certain body parts. Like the way my booty looks if I have a towel wrapped around me, as opposed to the way it looks when I don't, bring me the towel. It looks better. It's better, okay? This dress that I wear, my long white dress, the way my booty looks in this, it looks great. Even if I got my grandma panties on. And when I got my grandma panties on, they look better than when I take them off and it's just booty. Nobody cares about what you look like naked. Nobody should care. I'm gonna just say that because when you take them clothes off, child, mm-mm, mm-mm. Most of us, it's a mm-mm. Unless you are like athletic or you got a fake body or you was just blessed or you work out or something, then most of the time it's a mm-mm. And if you got titties and you don't have kids, it's definitely a mm-mm. I listen. I've been pregnant 3 times and I breastfed 2. I don't even have titties that are big enough to sag, and I be looking at them like, mm. So I'm just saying, let's let's just be real,
The
okay?
moral of the story is love yourself and mind your
Love
business and
your
accept that your kids already know their
tail.
sexuality. The end. Mind your business.
Mind your fucking business. Anyway,
And be for real.
be so fucking real. So anyway, about marriage. Um, just It ain't gotta be a one man, one woman type thing. It's just it just doesn't. If somebody is willing to commit to your agreements, whatever they are, for the rest of your life, do that shit. And I don't care. I don't care what they look like. I don't care their color. I don't care their nationality, their ethnicity, none of that. Just if you find somebody that's going to agree with you and keep to that agreement, do it. Because there's too many people out here that don't agree with the agreement and out here being fuckery and foolishness. And we're going to talk about that next week, though. And I heard this quote in my research, and it said, lust is about your own wants and preferences. Love is when you make necessary compromises for someone else. And notice it says necessary compromises for someone else. You should not be losing yourself in any type of relationship. If you unhappy, you unhappy, and you need to figure that shit out. First, you need to figure out what you want, so then you can explain that to the person. And if the person don't want to do it, and it's like a stark no, and it's something that's important to you, you need to say something. And then if it don't change, in that fucking relationship. We got to stop trying to like change people in our relationships, especially when it comes to marriage. Like we should have these things figured out before we get to marriage, because that's what dating and a relationship truly is. But if somebody has certain habits that you don't like, and they're not bad habits, it's just that you don't like them, don't try to change them. And even if they are bad habits, if they don't want to change it, they're not going to fucking change it. So either you deal with it and accept them and love them for where they are, or you move on to the next one. So if your girl don't like giving head, don't try to convince her otherwise. Be like, you know what? I really like it, and you don't want to do it, and so I think that we should explore other options. And if she don't want to do that, goodbye. Like, it's perfectly acceptable to say no to a relationship for sexual reasons. And it's not because it's all about sex, but you need to be fulfilled as a person sexually. Everybody does. And if you are not, it's going to cause problems. And that's where infidelity comes from, is that somebody doesn't feel fulfilled. And so even if it's a situation where somebody doesn't want to be in a committed relationship, they still want to have sex with other people. They love you, they want to be with you, but they also want to have sex with other people. That has to be a conversation. And if you say that and the other person's like, that's not for me, I prefer monogamy, then y'all got to part. Don't try to force either of the other person to engage in behavior that you don't want to. You don't want to be monogamous. So don't put yourself in a situation where you're being forced to be monogamous. You don't want to have an open relationship. So don't put yourself in a situation where you're being forced to have an open relationship. There's plenty of people out here who like monogamy. There's plenty of people out here who like fucking and keeping it moving. Find that person.
Find your tribe.
Okay? Find your tribe.
When you talk about equally yoked, like that includes your sexual compatibility. And I think people don't really take that into consideration. Like if you're not equally yoked in what it is that you want out of your sex life, and that includes the frequency, that includes, you know, whatever kinks you may have. Like if you can't get on the same page, you know, it's going to be a recipe for disaster in the long run, because sexually frustrated people in a relationship get, you know, it's going to start seeping into other areas of your life because you're not getting your rocks off in the way that you would like. So
let's talk about this. Well, no head in 2023. What? What? Like, is there a reason? What's to be like Cardi B? What was the reason? What was the reason? Why? Like, what is happening? Because if there's a reason, like if it's a hygiene issue, baby, fix it. Okay, go in there, get in that tub, Okay, let's take a shower together. Let me wash you. It could be that's part of intimacy right there. Because listen, let me tell you something. Every day, at least once a day, we take a shower together. It's usually when he comes home because he works in the morning. He goes, takes care of his kids, and then he comes back here at night. Usually between like 8:30 and 10:30 at night, somewhere in there is when he comes back home. And he has to be at work at like 4:45 in the morning. So when he comes home, we go up and we take a shower. We don't usually have sex in the shower, but we go take a shower together. We have conversation. How was your day? That type of thing. It's a release. You're washing off the day. It's low key. It's not therapy, but it's like it's helpful. And I make sure I wash his back because he can reach his back, but why? I'm sitting right here. So I wash his back, wash his chest, and then I get to play a little bit. And it happens every time. And he stands there and he lets it happen. The first time I did it, I said the royal penis is clean, Your Highness, and he laughed for like 5 minutes.
Damn it.
But after that first time, which was years ago, it became a thing. And since I would say in the last 2 years, it became a thing where we really started taking showers with each other regularly. And now it's pretty much once a day, at least. Sometimes it's more because we take a shower after sex because we got other shit to do. Take a shower after sex. Watch your coochie. Wash your coochie after sex. Wash your coochie.
Even if you don't have a coochie, watch whatever.
Wash your phallus. Wash your penis. Wash your penis. And it not with the same soap you wash your body with. Use a different soap. I have a whole different soap for my coochie. Because I don't want my coochie to smell like shea butter and cocoa butter. I'm not using Suave on my coochie.
But will you raise a good conversation about like the intimacy aspect? Because I think especially if you're in a relationship or married, like there is it can sometimes default into like, oh, we're so busy, we have kids, we have jobs, we have all of these things. Like you have to incorporate intimacy into your sexual experience, even if it's like you're patting your husband or boyfriend's ass as when he walks in the kitchen, or like there's other non-sexual intimate things to do to lead up to your sexual experience or to contribute to your actual sexual experience. So like, what is your partner like? What do you like? Like this, what is your sex language? What is your intimacy language? Like they all kind of tie together. So if you don't know what it is, you ain't gonna get it. So you need to figure out what you like. You need to know what your partner likes. You need to have these conversations. Like if you're comfortable enough to have sex with that person, you should be comfortable enough to have a conversation about sex with that person.
And we haven't talked about this, and it's not in my notes, but I want to talk about it, so I'm glad you said it. Like at some point, we have to be for fucking real. And yes, sex is cool, and no, body count really don't matter. But sex shouldn't just be, well, I guess it is in my notes at the end. Sex shouldn't just be this like carnal thing that, oh, you have an urge and you need to scratch it, and so let's go fuck somebody. That's not really how that should work. And that's why self-pleasure is important, because you can take care of that urge, go about your business, and not fuck up your life. That's how people end up with babies they don't want, relationships they wasn't trying to have, and STDs. Okay? Masturbate.
Could have saved you.
Want to be in a relationship? Masturbate. You don't want a baby? Masturbate. You don't want an STD? Masturbate. Okay? 60 seconds or less. That's all I'm saying. Get you a toy. Get you a toy. Oh, also with toys. Toys are cool or whatever, but don't make a habit of using them, because then they desensitize you, especially as a female, even as men. Especially as men. And that's part of porn too. So you get used to seeing something and now you're no longer stimulated by it. Or you get used to feeling something, and then so now you're not stimulated by other things. So be careful with sex toys and porn. Use them when necessary. I'm not saying don't do it. But if you can't do what you need to do without it, there's a problem. These two fingers should be fine. Just one finger. However many fingers you need should be fine. Okay? Just saying. Just
That's supposed to be just part of your intimacy. It's not the reliant, like you have to rely on this to be
yeah.
able to have sex. Because that can get into the area of more of like this is just a band-aid to cover up like our miscommunications about sex. Like let's throw a toy in there and then we don't have to talk about what might be going on
right.
sexually. So
And it is okay to have a toy with your partner. Like that's totally fine. Like I never had toys in my marriage. I didn't have a toy until I wasn't able to have sex all the fucking time like I wanted. And I'm like, what? And my wife was like, you should get a toy. And I was like, no, you can just come here. Just come here. And he's like, I can't get there. And I'm like, but I want the sex. And so I ended up getting a toy for that reason. And I had one toy that I just used for me. And then there's another toy that he uses on me. So there's two different toys. And it was fine. And it wasn't something we did all the time. Haven't even used either of them in a very long time. Haven't had to masturbate in a long time. Because he's here. So I can just be like, come here. Scorpion. You know? I will Mortal Kombat that nigga in a second. Listen, get over here. Go crazy. Go crazy. Okay. Wait, there's a Megan Thee Stallion song called Ride or Die. And you should listen to it. Everyone, yes, pee after sex too. Yeah, pee after sex too. Lord, clean the urethra, clean the pathway. That's how you end up with funky parts, both male and female. You can end up with funky parts, especially if somebody isn't being monogamous and you don't know it. Because you can say all day, oh yeah, we're in a committed relationship, we're married. Somebody fucking.
So you should still get STD screenings even after you're married. That's my personal belief.
Screenings. Definitely. And you should still wash your coochie. Just saying. Even if it's just water. Just get there and splash a little water around. Get the wetness part. Listen. Have you ever just had sex and then got in the shower and then went to go like clean yourself? Because you should be cleaning yourself with your fingers. You don't need a washcloth on your clit. That's why. Why would you even want a washcloth there? Ugh. Use your fingers. Get some water around there. Separate the lips. There's a crevice there. In case you didn't know, there's a crevice there. Crevices collect things. They collect
things can hide in there. Get in there.
They get the booty. Oh my God. Wash your booty hole. I don't think I need to say this, but I feel like I do. Men, it is not gay to wash your ass. Okay? It's not gay to get around the booty hole and make sure there's no lingering dingleberries in between your booty hole and your balls. Get the gooch, okay? Get it, clean it. Use your finger. You don't even have to. For guys, you guys don't really have to use your fingers because it's not like a super sensitive. Like you don't have a sex organ between your anus and your testicles. But clean it. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it with your hands, do it with the washcloth. And if you don't feel comfortable doing it, get you a bitch who will wash it for you. Because listen, we will gladly massage your balls and your penis while we clean you. Like it's not a big deal. It's actually like fun. I'm like, yep, let's see. Let's see if I can do this without you getting hard. It's a game. We like games. We do. We like fun sex games. And anytime that we can put our sexual prowess into something and touch your penis, we're probably going to do it. We're probably going to do it. Just cuz. We don't even have to have sex. Cuz not everybody wants to have sex for every little reason, right? Nobody's a robot, right? It's fun. Have your girl say, let's get in the shower together. You wash her, she washes you. Everybody's happy because you know what's in the crevice of her coochie. She don't know, she can't see it, but you know. You done either synced it or tasted it. Go on ahead and just gently clean the crevice. Everybody, clean your crevices and clean your booty hole because it's bacteria. And that's 90% of the time, that's where the smell comes from. Just in case you didn't know, it's coming from the bacteria left around your booty hole that gets in other places. It's not actually your skin or your vagina in some cases. It's the bacteria from your booty hole. Clean it. Okay. Public service.
Whether you're married or not, clean it.
Whether you're married or not, clean it. Clean it.
We still talk about that video too, the priest.
If somebody's face is going to be in it, clean it. Clean it. If your face is going to be in it, clean it. Clean it. Like nobody likes going down on somebody and feeling, nobody likes that. Nobody likes it. So offer to take a shower together. If you don't feel comfortable telling somebody they have that slight musty odor down there, get in the shower with them and be like, I'm going to wash you today, babe, and clean it. Just clean it. Because your face is going to be down there. You know what's in that crevice. You've either seen, smelled, or tasted it, and you probably didn't enjoy it. So...
And you're not going back. No return customers.
No return customers. Okay. Clean it. If you can get yoni steams as a female, make sure you go to somebody who's got a good reputation because some people be playing out here.
I think Love Goddess has some, like she has like the herbal birth control, and I think she has.
I think Omi Jimmy Lua has it one too. I'm not sure, but yes. And I've heard about the tea tree oil and anything minty. Listen, now this probably isn't advisable, but it works. Dr. Bonner's, that peppermint soap, if you've diluted it with water, that'll clean it. Your booty hole will be minty fresh. Okay? Minty. Clean it. Yeah. I'm just saying. Clean it. Clean it. An antibacterial soap on your vagina is just fine. It's just fine. Water should be fine. But if you have a little something going on, especially like if you've just had your period, a little something is fine. But don't use your Bath and Body Works on your coochie. Don't Japanese cherry blossom your coochie. Stop it. Stop it. They have bar soap too. Okay. Angel Baby's Black Beauty says she got I can't talk. Vagina steams on their website. So if you in the comments, click on the page. I don't care. Just this is all about health and wellness and clean it.
It is on our spirit. Somebody needs to hear this. Just clean it.
Just clean it. And if something happens, because it's really easy to throw off a female's pH balance. It could be your food. It could be the Henny and chicken wings. Okay. It's going to throw off your pH. Okay. Try the home remedy things first. Try a yoni steam. Try a different soap because sometimes it's your soap. Check your detergent. Sometimes it's your detergent. If you use those little pellets, because I use them, the little scent boosters, if they don't dissolve all the way and they're in your clothes and they're in your drawers, particularly, right? That's all stuff that's constantly on your vagina, and it may irritate you. So change your soap. If you can't do that, or like something's really going on, please go to the clinic, go to your doctor, have an OBGYN, please get pap smears. This is these
And
are all
also
things.
for the yoni steams, make sure you're not using a plastic container for the yoni steams because you're just steaming your vagina with plastic. You need to, like, if you're gonna do it yourself, you need a wooden stool to sit on, or you're gonna have to use a bowl that is not plastic and just kind of hover over it. Do not use plastic because you're getting chemicals in your vagina, which is counterproductive to what you're trying to do.
Somebody else mentioned Dr. Bronner's. Thank you for saying that. Listen, Dr. Bronner's, that peppermint soap will get you together. I've never even tried any of the other ones because they ain't going, like when I say menthol, like you will feel the tingle. And I'm fine with it. That means I know it's clean.
The honey pot does the a lot of those kind of products too.
I haven't tried any honey pot one, so I'm glad you said that because do it.
They
Girl,
have good
I have a
pads.
Kroger soap right now that I use, and I had to change my soap because something weird was going on. I said, "The fuck? No, we don't do this." Change my soap instantly. I changed my detergent. I went and I got the sensitive one for sensitive skin, still Arm and Hammer, but the one for sensitive skin, it still has a fragrance, but it don't have some of the other shit in it. Doesn't have that blue dye. Stay away from blue detergent. Stay away from blue detergent. Get the clear one. If it's not clear, pick something else. That's one of the things, especially as a female. Change that immediately. But I changed my detergent and I changed the soap that I explicitly use for the vagina and the booty hole, and got right rid of it. It's fine. Had a period just now, just got off of it. I use water. So I have a douche bottle, but I only put like room temperature water in it, like the water that's coming out of the shower, but it's not like hot. I put that in there, and I after a period, I'll just squeeze some up there to get the stuff out because my period likes to linger for no reason, and I don't like that. I don't like it. Yeah, so I just use some water, squirt it up there, clean it out. But stop using vinegar in your coochie. Don't do that. Unless a doctor says it and with very good reason, don't put vinegar in the coochie. It's not supposed to smell like daisies down there. It should smell like skin, like this part of your body right here. If your coochie smells like this, it's fine. If it smells like the back of a knee, that's also fine.
Back of a knee.
Like anywhere where skin collects, it's gonna have some type of smell. And unless you have this super skinny coochie that is only like this wide and it's little and it's cute and petite, um, then you're gonna have a little bit of skin smell. And there's nothing wrong with skin smell. Some guys actually prefer it. I watched a whole video where guys were talking about how they hate when there's no smell and they hate when it smells too like flowery because it's not real. They want
What is
the
this artificial vagina? Get out of here.
yeah, they want the real smell and they want a smell. Like not like a stinky smell, but like coochie has a natural somebody this post was like years ago and it said if that coochie don't smell like the air that's coming out the back of a PS4, I don't want it. And I laughed because if you have a video game and you have been back there when them fans is on and the air is coming out, you know exactly what the fuck he's talking about. And it's not a stinky smell, but it's a smell. But it's like a natural smell. Like you don't think you're like, oh, that stinks. Like you're not even thinking about it. You're like, oh, the fan's on. Like that's what you think in your head. And so it's the same like, oh, this is a coochie. It's gonna
Oh,
It's
this is
gonna
a
have
coochie. What is
things.
this? It's a coochie.
Like, and some people don't, some men was like they like a little twang. So like the first, like when you just get done working out, but you're clean when you worked out, or that you've been working at your job and you come home and the little twang that may then be there, they're fine with that and they prefer that. But they don't want the smell of nothing. And they also don't want your coochie to smell like Irish Spring. And if you've ever gotten Irish Spring on your coochie, you know that it changes that smell real quick and it don't smell like Irish Spring.
Irish twang. It turns into Irish twang.
It turns into Irish Twang. And that's why I said watch the soap. Watch the soap, because not all of it mixes well down there. And they'll tell you, like usually they say an antibacterial soap, just like Dial antibacterial. If you really feel like you need something, it's fine. If you get one of the pH balanced soaps, generally those are fine. But you have to watch the scent, because the scent, there's different scents to them and it may change your scent. So just be aware of those things. That's all I'm saying.
And you have to watch bar soaps just in general, because like they're sitting there collecting bacteria, even if you put them away or like try to keep them dry. You need something that's probably going to be coming out of a bottle.
Yeah. I don't use bar soap really at all. My boyfriend does, but he also has the liquid soap. But I don't use bar soap on me anymore. Just the liquids. Just the liquids. ACV wash works to get that pH managed. Yes, I'm old school. Got to keep those pheromones. Yes, and I just talked about that. Like that's a really an important part of human existence is pheromones. And so when you wash away the pheromones by putting all this flowery shit on top of it, it kind of gets rid of, it takes the shine off. And it can mess you up anyway. Like your pussy shouldn't smell like daisies. I'm sorry. It shouldn't smell like a medicine cabinet either, but it shouldn't smell like daisies. It's a pussy.
In case you were wondering what it is. See, we use proper terms for our body parts.
We use proper terms. Yeah. So somebody just said there's a certain one. That's the only thing they can use, because anything else will mess you up. That's a real thing. Like you really have to pay attention to your vagina. And if you have children with vaginas, teach them about their vagina and how to clean it. Stop letting these little girls walk around not knowing that there's a crevice that they need to clean. Okay? Because once they hit about, I don't really know the age for sure, but if they're athletic and they're running around, they need to know about the crevice for sure. If they lay around and don't really do shit, I would maybe about 10. But damn sure when they start hitting puberty and they start like getting hair on their legs, when they start getting hair on their coochie, they need to know that there's a crevice and you gotta clean it. Even if it's just with water at first, because they're not having sex. So chances are there's nothing really throwing off their pH, because there's nothing going in it that's foreign. The only thing that's close would be if they use tampons. Tampons can throw off your pH. So if they're using tampons, even just pads, having something that close and rubbing on the vagina can affect them. So again, with the detergent. So y'all, teach your small people how to wash themselves if they have vaginas, regardless of their pronouns. If they have a vagina, they still need to learn how to clean it. They have a penis, regardless of their pronouns, they still need to learn how to clean it, especially if they're not circumcised. They definitely need to know how to clean their parts. It is not taboo to teach someone basic life skills like cleaning their body. That's why some men don't wash their ass.
And herein lies the problem.
And herein lies the problem. But this is why some men think anything having to do with a booty hole is gay, which it isn't. because nothing you do with with a female as a male is gay. So it doesn't matter if she's pegging you, doesn't matter if she's putting her fingers in there, doesn't matter if she's licking it. It's a female. So it's not gay. If you aren't attracted to men, you're not gay. Just saying. I felt like that needed to be said too. Castile soap based detergent is safest if the fragrance isn't from essential oil, then it's chemicals. Boom. Whoop, there it is. Y'all didn't even know we was going to be talking about detergent on this conversation about sex, did you? But here we are. We're talking about soap because it directly affects your sex life if your shit ain't clean. Stop it. Clean it. Okay. So back to the real conversation. Gods and sex. So we're going to talk about some interesting things. Okay. So in Hinduism, the reproductive connection between men and women is definitely a thing, right? However, it's also been documented that homosexuality is a natural part of nature in their entire culture. So it's not taboo at all to see two men together, and then one of those men goes home to his wife and she knows about the other man, and then they have kids. Like, it's only weird when you're lying about it. Basically, in most cultures, it's only weird when you're lying. So don't lie. But anyway, and I found out that the Kama Sutra actually has words. It's a real book. I've never actually seen it in person, so I didn't know. I thought it was just pictures because that's all I've ever heard about is the pictures of these positions. There's words in there, and it's descriptive. Child, I clutched my pearls. Go read chapter 9. If you have one or you come across one, just go straight to chapter 9 and read it. I clutched my pearls. It's about fellatio. And it was very interesting. Child, wow. So anyway, moving on from that. Just go get the book. So Zeus, everybody knows that he was like a trash parent, right? Everybody knows Zeus was the most trash father that ever done fathered anything in the history of anything. Like, everybody talks about how many kids Genghis Khan had. Zeus was a trash father. Genghis Khan I don't even know how he was as a father, but for a deity, Zeus was a very trash father. He was just having kids. But, and this is why I preface this whole conversation about pedophilia first, because Zeus had a mortal as a cupbearer. And a cupbearer was a young boy who would have been adolescent, so not like a 20-year-old, like a young boy who they would engage in erotic behavior with. This is how it was worded in the thing. So if you've ever wondered where the Catholic Church got their literal balls and audacity, it was from other religions where sex with young boys was part of the religion. So while it wasn't part of the Greek religion and the pantheon, so to speak, it is the foundation of a custom called, I'm going to say it wrong, pederastia, which at the time was the practice of Greek men maintaining erotic relationships with adolescent boys. Like, it was a whole thing within the culture where this was normal. And they showed a picture of a portrait, and that little boy looked uncomfortable. Like, even in the portrait, he looked uncomfortable. Because stop it. Just stop it. Anyway, So that was like a thing in the culture. So when we talk about the Catholic Church and how that became a thing with altar boys, they really got that blueprint from Greek mythology. And there might be some other ones in there too, but Greek mythology is the one I found the example of, which definitely predates Christianity by a lot. So be aware of that. Horus, the god Horus, the Egyptian god. Wait, hold on, wait. Can you see it? There we go. No, you can't see it, but it's there. Um, he is either raped or seduced into a sexual encounter with his uncle, Seth. And Seth intends to embarrass him by showing others that Horus was the receptive partner in the act. So back in ancient Egypt, they didn't care about homosexuality either, but they did care about being subjugated. So as long as you wasn't the one, as long as you was the one doing the bending, it was fine. But if you was the one being bent over, it was less fine. Okay. So Horus somehow ends up getting Seth's semen. And he knows that Seth is on some bullshit. And so he has Isis feed Seth a salad, and the semen is in the salad. And so then when Seth, because these are all gods, by the way, when Seth then recalls the semen, it comes out of his mouth, proving that he was receptive and not the one doing the bending. So, because again, they don't like the subjugation part. They don't mind if a man bends over another man. And that man, like if it was a pharaoh, the pharaoh bent over another man, they don't care. But as long as the pharaoh wasn't the one being bent over, it was fine. So it's like a hierarchy to fucking whatever. Yes, exactly. Wow. I just saw this comment from Amber who was talking about the smell. And she said, but if it smells like earring backs, I am over it. That was really funny. The first man-on-man relationship in history was actually with Apollo and a singer. And then Apollo was also with a Macedonian prince named Hyacinthos. And part of the story is Hyacinthos died catching a disc from another god. And so he was unintentionally killed. And so then Apollo changes him into a hyacinth flower. So that's where the name comes from. It comes from Apollo's gay lover. And then Apollo was also in a relationship with Hymen, who is the god of marriage, who is a male. And the women's hymen is actually named after that god. So part of virginity, right? It's a whole thing. Like you got to be a virgin until you get married because the hymen, right? And if the hymen is gone, that means you had sex. Well, hymen is the god of marriage. See the correlation there? Things you learn. Things you learn. Orpheus. So Orpheus went down to Hades to get his wife, right? And when he got there, he actually had her. And part of the thing was he could not look at her until they came back to the land of the living. Well, he failed and he looked at her. And so she died, like gone, not coming back. And so he vowed that he would never have sex with another female. So he started fucking guys. Fine, whatever. But the women were so upset that he kept denying them that he was at an orgy and he was literally torn limb from limb by women because he wouldn't have sex with them. And he would only have sex with men. Learn that. Callisto was a follower of Artemis and made a vow to remain a virgin. And she was like so into that vow that even Zeus couldn't tempt her as a man. However, comma, he then disguised himself as Artemis and seduced Callisto. And of course, she became pregnant because we all know Zeus and his spreading of his seed. So when it was found out what had happened, Callisto was changed into a bear before she gave birth to, what is his name? Arcus is what it looks like. I'm probably saying it wrong. I'm not Greek. Before she gave birth to Arcus, she was turned into a bear. And then after Arcus was born or whatever, um, the gods ended up taking her up into the stars, into the constellation, and she and her son are Ursa Major and Ursa Minor in Greek mythology. I didn't know that. I know what Ursa Major and Ursa Minor were. I could point them out in the sky. I didn't know it was based, well, not based on, but I didn't know this story involved that. So that was something interesting that I learned. Seth and his retarded ass. I'm sorry, Seth and his special ass. He was actually married to his sister, which we already know how Egyptians went anyway. We already know it was a whole bunch of incest. The whole royal bloodline, it's just a bunch of incest, right? Um, so he was married to his sister, but he's usually depicted as engaging in sexual activities with other male deities, such as Horus. And he's described as having impotent testicles and never had a child. And so it was rumored after, generations and thousands of years that this was the reason why Seth gets a bad rap, is because there's still so much about him being into men, women too, but into men. And so they kind of like curbed it to make Seth this bad person because he was homosexual and engaged in homosexual sex, when really he was just a shitty person in anyway, and it had nothing to do with who he was having sex with. How do you feel about all those? Did you learn some things?
I did. I have not studied Greek mythology or Egyptian history in a very long time. I was like, huh. You learn something new every day. The more you learn.
What do we talk about? And they make it seem like homosexuality is some newfangled thing, and it really is not. And then they make it seem like it's they make it seem horrible and terrible, when before Christianity, nobody cared. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. But whatever. And that there's only like a couple parts in the Bible that actually reference homosexuality. And if you don't already know how the Bible was constructed, I'll say it briefly. Council of Nicaea was like, we have 10 different religions over here, and we need to join the people together. And so they combined different parts of different religions, and they did the actual Bible itself. So they left out all the Gnostic books. They left out the book of Mary Magdalene. They left out so many things, anything that wasn't going to make Christ look like a god, basically. They left all that stuff out. And they put in these hard rules, but they left all the rest of the rules out. They focused on the 10 Commandments, but they forgot about all the other rules, except for the gay part, which I find hilarious, because the homosexual part is not part of the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments are based on 42 principles of something. Don't quote me. I don't remember what it's called. And so you have all these rules, and people focus on the 10 Commandments and homosexuality, but not about the part about eating shellfish, not about the part about mixing materials. So if your polyester blend is actually a sin. If you have both cotton and silk on, that's a sin. Stop it. You're going to hell, according to that Bible that y'all love to thump so much. And the Bible also says no one sin is greater than the other. So while people focus on homosexuality as the ultimate sin, really, it's you're no better of a person for being straight because you lie all the time. You committed adultery. You have a fucked up relationship with your parents, and some of it is your fault. That's a sin too. We always forget about that honor thy mother and thy father part. And you was out here sliding down the damn vents and shit to sneak out at night, jumping out windows and shit. You done stole a car. You was drinking. All this other stuff. That's all sinning according to the Bible. But you want to focus on what these two grown people over here are doing. I shaketh my head. Shaketh. So now let's get into gods and the gender. Angel said, I most definitely learned something. Zeus was a whole ass rapist. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So let's talk about the gods and gender. So people seem to think that transgender people are new. I'm about to show you that they're not. And actually, our version of transgender people are low key, low budget. Because these stories I'm about to tell you, Lord. So, Apollo had a prophet who was super famous. His name, Tiresias, I think is how you say it. Tiresias. We'll say that's right. So he was born a man, and he was transformed into a female for 7 years. During these 7 years, he got married and had kids. Okay. And he became a priestess of Hera. So he became a priestess of Hera, got married, had kids in this 7-year time frame. And then after the gods changed him back, Zeus asked who enjoyed sex more, men or women, and Tiresias revealed that ladies had it roughly 10 times better than men. And so Hera said, fuck you, and blinded his ass.
He lied. Web of lies.
Lies, blind. So the blind prophet of Apollo, that's his story. That's how he became a blind prophet of Apollo. Is that Hera said, "Oh, we telling stories," and blinded him. Isis appears in a dream to a pregnant Telethusa. That's her name. These names. Isis appears to a dream to a girl. She's pregnant. She's freaking out because she thinks she's having a girl and her husband wants a boy because, keeping of the bloodline and all that jazz, right? So, and it's against his wishes. Like, you can fucking control the gender of your baby. But anyway. So Isis told the mother to keep the child. And Ephus was born female, but raised as a male by his mother and concealed the truth from her husband because he wanted a male heir. I don't know how you get away with that, but I guess back then they wasn't changing no diapers as men, so they never saw the private parts. I don't know. But it worked. So ultimately, Ephus falls in love with a female, and they get engaged. They're betrothed to be married. So before the wedding, the child, who has been living as a man, goes to the temple of Isis and prays and begs for a solution. And Isis grants his wish and makes him an actual man. So ISIS has been doing transgender stuff for a long time, which I didn't know. I started doing research and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. The sun god Ra has a female aspect called Rat, who is considered the mother of the gods. I've heard about Ra. I didn't know that was Ra. I thought they were two separate people. I thought Ra and Ra got together and made the gods. Apparently, that's not actually the story. So learn that. One of the first transgender figures in actual like human history that's not God related is an Egyptian pharaoh named, I'm not going to butcher it. Okay. It's an H name. And unlike other female Egyptian rulers, she is always depicted wearing men's clothes with men features, like no boobs, nothing. And so she actually ordered that she always be portrayed as a male. So it could go one of two ways. It's unclear as to whether that was a actual preference or if she did it because her rule was kind of fragile and she had other people trying to come after her rule. And so to legitimize her rule and to keep her name in history, she wanted to be depicted as a male. Both are possible. And when I was doing the research, I saw that, but also, and so I'm adding the, but also it could be because her nephew, descendant, no, it's her nephew. It was her nephew. He later tried to eradicate all historical documents regarding her and her rule altogether. So, but again, there was a lot of turmoil at the time, a lot of political turmoil. So it's unsure if that was because she was actually a transgender person or if it was due to other things. But that's a thing. Happy, the god of the Nile, is depicted in hieroglyphics as an intersex person with a ceremonial false beard and breasts. And I've actually seen that. And it didn't register to me at the time. I was just like, oh, okay, that's weird. And I went about my life. But I've actually seen a statue of Happy and there's boobs and a beard. And I was like, oh, but that's a thing. So there is a lot of duality in Hinduism. Shiva is like the best example of that because Shiva had a wife, Parvati, I think is how you say it. And Parvati wanted to experience what Shiva experienced sexually at the same time. Like Parvati wanted to have the same experiences as Shiva. So the gods combined them. And so there are certain pictures where half is one and half is the other because they were combined in one body. And if you follow, there's a Hindu scholar. His name is Sadhguru. And he's like all over YouTube. He has actually a very big following because he's still alive. And he's very, very old. I don't know how old, but he's old. But he talks about a lot of like pop culture stuff and like the religious aspect of it or the spiritual aspect of it. So he's like very popular on YouTube if you go look at him. But he is quoted as saying is that what is being said is that if the inner masculine and the inner feminine meet, you are in perpetual state of ecstasy, which makes sense. Amber said Adam and Eve had a son named Seth and he married his sister too. The crossovers are crazy. See? Look at that. Look at that. And then, yes, Kay mentioned that we all have feminine and masculine in us. Exactly. And the key is balance. So there's nothing wrong with having masculine energy as a female as long as you don't live in your masculine energy. Same thing with the male. There's nothing wrong with having female energy as long as you don't live in your feminine energy. You have to have the balance. And being gay doesn't mean there's an imbalance. I just had to throw that in there too. Because there are very masculine gay men. There are very feminine gay men. But It doesn't mean, and two feminine gay men can be in a relationship together and still get things done because they're still men. Two femmes can be in a relationship together and still get things done in a way that works for them without one of them having to be overly masculine. Just saying. Balance. Anyway, Vishnu is a popular deity where he actually would take the form of a female and had kids as a female, but then was also a man when he wanted to be. Um, and the Radha Krishna are collectively known within the Hindu faith as aspects of the male and female facets of God. And so it doesn't even matter, actually. In any type of Hinduism, it actually doesn't matter. Even in African spirituality, which I know, which is some of y'all really wanted to know, there are examples of non-binary deities. Take Olodumare. Olodumare is God. We have a habit as humans of saying he as God because it's been like beat into our head. But Olodumare is actually they, them. And there are many, many texts, many Ifa texts that, where people talk about, they're not real texts because it's new shit for Ifa to be even written down. But they will say they and them, even now, and nobody thinks of it as strange. No one who really practices Ifa is going to say Olodumare is a man. Nobody's going to say it. They're not going to say Olodumare is a female. They're going to be like, Olodumare is Olodumare. They just are. They are what they are. So there is no, it's really a they, them. It's transgender. Well, I'll get to that one in a second. And then even Obatala. So obviously, Obatala is with me most of the time, right? Obatala has female aspects. He has a few female aspects. And if you're in the coven, we actually have a class on Tuesday. It's a coven only class. It's going to be an Obatala class. And we're going to talk about some of that. So because people will want to say, oh, it's a white thing. And then when it comes to Egypt, you have to know that there's two different versions of Egypt. There's Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt is actually the lower half, and Lower Egypt is actually the upper half. And Lower Egypt, which is the top half, was actually the Asian part of Egypt. And then Upper Egypt, which is the bottom half, is the African version of Egypt, or Kemet, as some people would prefer to say. And so they'd be like, oh, no, that was the Asians. It wasn't the Africans. Baby, shut the hell up. Because, again, nobody actually cares. And all those rumors where it says homosexuality is a white thing and Africans never practice homosexuality.
Okay.
That's not correct either. I'm just saying. It just wasn't taboo because as long as you fulfilled the agreements that you made, nobody actually cared because sex feels good. So anyway, so now the part where we're going to talk about sexuality and how it was demonized by the church. So Cardinal Cantalamessa is quoted as saying, human sexuality is the first school of religion, which to hear a cardinal say that sexuality is the first school of religion is crazy, right? Well, what does religion actually mean? The word comes from a different word. It is, oh, I lost my place. Religare. And that word means to form bonds. So really religion is just forming the bond with spirit and God and the creations of God, forming bonds with each other and our spirits for the betterment of all. That's what religion is. Sounds right, right? Um, so when we talk about religion, sex being the first thing of religion, it's because that's what sex is. Sex creates a bond between humans. It creates a bond between animals too, but especially humans, we're different from animals. Animals have this carnal urge to multiply and do all this stuff. And the thought process, there's no thought process really behind it. They're not like, oh, I don't like you, I'm not giving you no kids. That's not really how the animal kingdom works. But that is how humans work, because we were purposely built to be a little bit different and to create bonds with each other. And so sex creates a bond. So why we say you should be careful, although body count doesn't matter, you don't want to be out here creating bonds with everybody. You don't want to be creating bonds with somebody that you were supposed to just nod at and keep it going. Like, you can appreciate how someone looks. I could be in a store like, oh, she fine, but I ain't gotta fuck her. Okay, I can see a dude in the gym, nice muscles, like, oh, them muscles look nice. I ain't gotta fuck them though. I ain't gotta do all that. There's other ways to create bonds that aren't sexual, but the most primal and basic of them is the sexual bond, because that's how we procreate and how we create life. But really, we shouldn't be attempting to create life with everything that walks by that looks cute. So we can appreciate the human body, appreciate someone's sexiness, appreciate their mystique, appreciate their body without actually going that extra step to create a physical and spiritual bond with that person, because that's really what sex is. And we can go into the deep anatomy of sex and what happens, especially like with females. When you let a man ejaculate inside of you, you now have his DNA in you, and now your DNA is different because you have this other man's DNA in you. So you should be careful about how many men's DNA you get in you. Okay. And you're literally carrying spirits. You're carrying spirits. You are connected because you have that man's seed. And so, on the spiritual sense, typically, sometimes you can't really connect directly with somebody else's ancestors. You connect with your ancestors, and your ancestors connect with the other people. They have their little congregation and they all talk and they report back to you. But you're usually not directly communicating with other people's ancestors unless you have that ability to just talk to spirits, right? Most of us can't do that. So when it gets to the point to where you're able to connect directly with other people's specific ancestors, especially with a man, having sex with that man and him putting his seed in you creates that pathway for his ancestors to come through. Because you've got, technically, even though there's no life as far as like a fetus, because it's a fetus, there's no fetus in there yet, but you have life inside of you. And once you're spiritually attuned, sometimes you can feel it. If you've ever had a man come in you and you could feel that shit in your stomach, that's the life. There's literal life swimming around in you. Or if you ever, you're doing the things, you've got it in your mouth and you swallow and you feel the tingle, that's because you can feel literal life swimming around in you. And dentists can see that, by the way. So if you have a dentist appointment and you were sucking dick that morning, please wash out your mouth real good. Brush them real good, because they can actually see that, because they have that little microscope thing and they can see sperm in the back of your throat. So tip, clean it. We go back to the previous
always go back to the
conversation. Clean it.
Keep it clean out there.
Clean. Keep it clean. I forgot what I was even talking about because I saw a video about that and I said, what? Lord Jesus. Anyway, stop building bonds with everybody. You ain't got to do that. You could be friends. You could have conversations. Stop letting everybody nut in you. Stop nutting in everybody. It's nasty for any diseases. For no other reason as you can catch something. You could get somebody pregnant that you don't want to be with for the rest of your life. Like, you ain't got to be together, but now you stuck with this person because you have a child with them. I'm just saying, stop doing that shit. Be sexually free, but like, use discretion. Come on now. Use some discretion. And if you masturbate, you don't have to worry about it. Not as much anyway. Then there was somebody else, William Reich, who he wrote this book in the 70s called The Sexual Revolution. And he basically said that all sex is a physical excitation that comes from bioelectric processes in the tissues. And so he took the spirituality out of sex and just made it about science. And so people are like, oh, it's just science. And so now we all fucked up because we don't understand that there's a spiritual aspect to sex. We think of it as like, oh, it's just carnal urges. Oh, I just got to do it. And so now we're all fucked up because we took the spirituality part out of sex. And if you've ever had sex with somebody you really genuinely love, again, this is how I said married sex is different from casual sex because the level of intimacy that you share with that person, and I guess this is just my experience because I'm sexually awake. When you are intimate with somebody outside of sex and then you add sex to it, it just makes it better. As opposed to you just getting this nut in the alley back here because.
Why are you in an alley? Let's start there.
Hey, it happened.
I mean, little shenanigans here and there, but still.
a little drunken, a little alcohol, and people do some strange things.
I've been drinking. You doing your Beyonce out there?
But listen, no judgment. I'm just saying there's better ways to engage in sexual behavior that are less dangerous. We'll just say it like
more
that.
Clean. That's my problem with the alley. I'm like, it's a little dangerous. There's cars, there's trash cans.
Listen,
and we're talking about cleanliness.
Listen. It wasn't in an alley. It was on the side of a house. But what had happened was we was on the porch waiting for one of his friends. And they weren't there. So we was just sitting out on the porch, right? And some things started happening. And I decided to, for the first time, show off my mouth skills, right? Mind you, we're just outside in public. And he was taken aback. And so he took me out back. And so we went around to the side of the house, got that in real quick, and then went about our business. But we were also together. Like, we were in a relationship. It wasn't like some stranger. And that was just exciting. So, like, it's cool to, the alley's always pissy. I live in Philly. I'm really sorry.
See, side of a house, yes. The alley scares me. I watch too much Criminal Minds. Like, please, don't go into the stranger danger in the alley. Please don't do it.
Out there with them crossroads entities in the alley, wondering why you all hot and bothered.
Don't do it.
And if you blame it on Papa Legba, I will slap you. Don't you dare bring Papa Legba into this.
And I love American Horror Story, but please, that's not accurate.
Please, that's not accurate.
It's not
but
accurate.
We're not talking about that today either. So anyway, at this point we've kind of like reduced sex to nothing but like urges, and instead of a way to like create a lasting bond with somebody, it's just like, oh, it's an urge. I'm done, and you go about your business. And we gotta do better about sex, y'all. So in my research, I came across this video of a priest who is all the gay. Super duper gay. He knew he was gay, but he was raised in the church. And so he was raised to basically hate himself, which caused some issues, right? And so he comes of age and he does all the things you're supposed to do. And he decides he has a really good friend. They start dating, they get engaged, and they get married, and they start having kids. Whole time, he's still whole ass gay and he knows it. But this is part of the reparative therapy, otherwise as known as what is it called when it's not called that?
Conversion therapy.
There we go, conversion therapy. And so they basically say, pray it away, and if you can't pray it away, change your behaviors so that you are not engaging in any homosexual behavior. So obviously don't watch gay porn, right? Because porn's already bad in the church. But so get a girlfriend or boyfriend, whichever makes sense in your case. Get someone who is of the opposite sex. Get married to them. Have children with them, and the gay will just go away.
Like, poof, it's gone.
So this did not work at all for this man. And he began drinking a lot. He was faithful in his marriage, so he wasn't going outside the marriage or anything like that. But he started drinking, and he barely remembers the birth of his second son because he was literally waking up and drinking and living his day drunk or functionally alcoholic, to where he could go about his day and other people didn't notice. Anybody outside the house, nobody knew other than the people that he had already confided in. And it got so bad that he just couldn't take it anymore. And like he was like crying to his wife, and he decided that it wasn't working, and he felt horrible. He felt like he was letting down God. He felt like he was letting down his family. He one of the things he said that was so sad is he felt like he was broken. And why would God make him broken? Because he'd been gay his whole life. And so he didn't understand why, if God didn't want him to be gay, why did he make him gay? Because he did all the things to not be gay, and he was still gay. Very gay.
He did all the things.
He was all of the gay. So he ends up, they get to the point where their home life is just in too much disarray. Now they have these kids, but they end up getting separated, and they eventually get divorced. But they stay in a co-parenting living relationship for their sons. Well, and he tells his church, and the church kicks him out. And so, and he, again, at this point he's already gone to missionary school and done all the things. He's a whole priest. And they're like, yeah, but you're gay. Go away. So he loses his entire church life. So he has to find another church. I can't remember the name of the church that he ends up going to, or the name of the, what's it called? Denomination, but still a Christian church. And they're more accepting. So he's allowed to still be a priest. So he eventually works up, he gets his own church, and he falls in love. He starts a relationship for the first time with a man, but like late in life. So he doesn't know anything about dating a man. He doesn't know anything about being in love with a man because he never had the opportunity as a child to work through that. So one of the great things about like high school, right? Everybody has boyfriends and girlfriends in high school, right? And you get to learn about intimate relationships. Even if you're not necessarily having sex, you get to learn how to deal with a romantic relationship. Well, he didn't have the opportunity to do that. So now he's doing this as a whole ass adult with 2 kids and an ex-wife. And so there's things that he has to overcome in doing that. But they end up falling in love, and his ex-wife is like, no, this guy's really amazing to you and you're really happy. you should continue to pursue this, because he's all types of in his head discombobulated, and ends up getting married. So now his kids have their mom and their dad, and they have a bonus dad over here who genuinely loves them, and everybody is happy now. And I believe she was also in conversion therapy, because the way she looked, sometimes lesbians have a certain look. She definitely has the look of a lesbian, but she talks so much about conversion therapy. I'm not sure if it's because she had to go through it or if she just went through it because he did. But it's just, it's so horrible that people get to that point where they feel like they're not a person, or that God hates them, or that they're broken simply because of who they're attracted to, not because they have murderous tendencies, not because they go hurt cats,
Right.
not because they're burning ants with magnifying glasses, not because they're acting out in school and they have other behavioral issues, not because they have a mental instability, that's bad enough too, but simply because of how they feel about another human in a positive way, not a negative way. Like, they don't wish harm on the person. They want to love them. Like, how is love ever so bad that God would hate you for it? And so that was just, it was a short video. It was maybe like 20 minutes, but I went through all the emotions with that. Nicole, how did you?
All the feels. It took me 2 days to get to the video because you had already warned me, like, brace yourself. It's gonna snatch your soul out of your body. It's so many feels. And it reminds me of just how I understand people have this concept about homosexuality, and especially in the Black community, there's just such a taboo about it. And that's why I love that we're having this conversation, because people are born that way. And also, what kind of God are you serving that would hate their own creation? Like, that don't even make no sense. So, like, I have family members who are gay. Like, I can't imagine saying this is the God that I serve, who also supposedly has a problem with this family member of mine who is, one of my dearest, closest people in my life. Like, how, like that, I can't even reconcile that. So to see someone else having to go through that experience of, like, I must be broken because the church or this religion says I'm so damaged because of who God made me attracted to. Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, I absolutely hate it. I hate it with a fiery passion when people are just so like, that is wrong because you're doing it that way. I'm like, mind your business. They're not in your bed. Why do you care? I just, I can't. But it was a really good video.
It was. I saw another one. I meant to send it to you and I forgot, of a Black priest who was openly gay, and he was raised in the church, but he had a different form of family, which is why I wanted to bring this up. And I'm glad you said that. He, as opposed to the first priest, was white, had to go through conversion therapy. His family was all hating and like crazy or whatever. And then before that, I saw a video of a Black priest who was gay as soon as he was born. He knew it. And like I said, you can tell sometimes with little boys, you're like, we usually say something's a little sweet in there. And sometimes it's just a thing, and it's just something that happens and they end up being straight, but sometimes they're like genuinely gay. Well, he was genuinely gay, but he had family that was supportive of who he was as a person. And so he didn't have the problems to the same negative extent as the white priest because he had a support system in his family and in his community to where he didn't have to do all that. And then it turns out that his grandmother, there were other gay people in the church, but they were kind of like ignored, like they weren't made to feel like, they weren't simply like, you're gay, blah, blah, blah. So they were coming to church, but they were like, those are gay people, and then you go about your business. So it turns out that his grandmother actually low-key adopted those two men, and when she died, in her obituary, they were listed as sons of the family or something like that, because they understood the importance of making sure they were okay, essentially making sure that they had a place and had a family and had people that would look out for them regardless of what their sexual orientation was within the church. Because it's really hard to go into a church and not know anybody, right? Already, it's hard to go into a church you don't know. Anybody who's ever been to a visiting church absolutely hates that shit most of the time. Like most of the time, it has to be like your favorite cousin or something that is going to that church for you to go to a visiting church, because you don't like the way they sang, you don't like them songs, you don't like they robes, the pews are hard, something is going to be fucked up in the church that you ain't going to like. So then imagine going to church to get God, right? To be right with God, and then have everybody staring at you, and because you're gay, but you still want to be one with God. So it's like they push you out of church almost. They push you out of religion instead of welcoming you in. So it actually has the reverse effect that they want it to, because what they want you to do is be part of the church and change and be a changed person and not be a sinner and all this other stuff. That's what they want, but their actions end up pushing people who are not straight out of the church. And so now they abandon God in some cases altogether because they're told that God hates them. Well, if God hates me, fuck you too. Like that, that's a real thing. And I completely understand it. And I had to deal with that as a kid, and being in church and being in choir, knowing in my head, I like titties. I can't say that though to nobody. So it took until I was an adult to actually say anything about me being bisexual publicly. My husband knew at the time. He knew, because we had those type of conversations. And like some of my friends knew or whatever, but I wasn't finna tell my family. I got pastors in my family. I got good church going folks with the hats and the starburst outfits. Like I can't like wear stockings when you in church type people. I was an usher.
Slip
I
and
sang in
stockings.
You can't be telling them that you are into anything that's not normal. You can't say most stuff in church. You can't have real conversations in church, period. You better be talking about the Lord, our Savior, Jesus Christ, and that's it. The only love you're going to know as a teenager is the love of the Lord. A little fast, being fast out here with these little boys when all you doing is playing basketball. Like, it's a whole thing with the church. And this is not about church hurt. So we're not going to talk about that. Not all the church hurt. But it really is like difficult growing up in church, knowing that you're not straight. And it comes with a lot of self-denial, and then you act out. I remember, and I had to apologize later once I realized what I said, but when I was 16, I worked at a restaurant. And one of the GMs, we had 3 GMs. One of them was gay. I'm sorry, not GMs. They were just managers. One of them was gay. Didn't bother me. I didn't care. But we were having a conversation one day in the back, and they were talking about how there's homosexual tendencies in dogs, because dogs will hump anything, right? But how in the animal kingdom in general, there's homosexual tendencies because it's more about pleasure. It's not about, oh, you're a female monkey, I can only be with a female monkey because I'm a male monkey. They don't give a shit about that. They want their dick sucked. Like, they don't care. And monkeys do suck dick. If you've never seen a video, they're there. It exists. I was just going down my IG thing, and some page that I follow, they have to fuck with the algorithm to make sure their posts come up. And so they'll post like random, like birds fucking or something like that, because it boosts the algorithm, because that's what people want to see. People want to see sex. And so anything with sex in it, it boosts in the algorithm. So that's how I saw monkeys sucking dick. But anyway, but in my 16-year-old church-going brain, I let my mouth say, oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket, talking about homosexual tendencies in animals while my gay manager is sitting there. And so I didn't like argue about it or anything like that. I was just like, yeah, that's hell, world's going to hell, got homosexual animals. And so he got really like upset, but not like in the yelling upset, but he like his whole demeanor changed, his face changed, like he really was upset. And so later, and I don't remember how long later, I remember like realizing really what I said, and also knowing that I didn't actually feel that way. It was just that I was indoctrinated to have that reaction to anything that had to do with homosexuality. And while I didn't feel that way about people, and I wouldn't have said that about people because it was animals, in my head, it was like, oh, I could say it because it's animals. It's not people. But it still wasn't an okay thing to say. And so I eventually went back and I apologized, because I'm like, bro, I don't even know what the fuck I just said that for. And we were good after that. But it took a lot of time to get that type of stuff out of my own brain, knowing the whole time I like titties. It is low-key like self-hate. And so there's a lot of men who are straight who molest boys, or go toe tapping in airport bathrooms. Who was that? Oh, was that? It wasn't Dick Cheney. He's the one that shot somebody. There was another senator that was in the airport, and he was soliciting for sex in the airport bathroom from other men. This was around maybe the first Bush, maybe the second Bush term, somewhere in there. And it was a big deal because he's this straight white man who is a senator, and he got like caught publicly soliciting sex from another man in an airport bathroom on the fuck camera, on camera, because on camera. So it's, I forgot what my point was. All the thoughts left the back of my head. Say something and I'll think of thoughts later.
We were talking about senators, soliciting sex, but also your manager and just being indoctrinated about homosexuality, even when you yourself would be considered part of that population, like LGBTQ plus.
Yeah, there we go.
Being like,
that's what it was. It's like, it's crazy how traumatic that is. And then you cause trauma for other people. So I caused trauma for him in my remark because of the trauma I had from church, if that makes sense. And it's like this vicious, horrible, terrible, stupid cycle that's really unnecessary. Yes, it was Larry Craig. Thank you. Thank you. That's who it was. Lord, he was like a senator or something from Idaho, was toe tapping in the bathroom for sex. But that's especially a thing for men, I think, because being gay now you're not a man because you're gay, which isn't true, but now you're not a man. You're not a real man because you're gay. You can't be doing real man things because you're gay. And so then they act out in other ways. And sometimes it's like by hating women. And I had this whole argument with somebody else the other day where they were like, the gender war isn't real. And I'm like, oh, yes, it is. There are women who genuinely hate men, blanket men. And there are men who genuinely hate women, blanket just hate women. Now, not all of them are gay in either case, but sometimes that hurt comes from sexuality. So the reason why some gay women hate men is because they were treated horribly by men. And so really they were bisexual or bi-curious at least. And they were hurt by men. And so then they just decided they're only going to fuck with women from now on. But that doesn't necessarily mean they were never attracted to women before. Like, it's not entirely how that works. But same thing for men. There are some men who were already bi-curious or bisexual, didn't want to admit it, or were just straight gay, didn't want to admit it. And then they blame the opposite sex for why they turned to the other thing. That's more common with women, though. Women love to blame men for why they eating coochie. Girl, just say you like coochie.
That's it.
I'm just saying. So, because this is now 3 hours. Anybody in the comments, do you have anything you want to say before you end this? Yes, and he was a Republican. Larry Craig was a big old Republican.
They protest too much. That's usually a sign.
The lady doth protest too much. Listen, I was actually in that play. I was the lady that doth protested too much in the play. I remember that. Anybody got anything they want to say? Because we made this whole 3 hours. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. You know, we love to talk. We love to talk about all the things.
We love to talk. And thank you for adding your professional experience in some of these things.
Thank you. I love this topic. We should definitely do more. We could do a part 2. I mean, anything sex, sexuality, and religion. We could do like part 500 and still have more to talk about.
Right. Wakanda said, I appreciate you ladies. I was doing homework.
Yeah. Don't blame us. Don't tell the teacher it was us.
Listen. Oh, yes, because you are in mentorship. So anybody who's in mentorship can join the panel in any version of BSN, or if you're a professional in the realm of whatever it is we're talking about. I stuck here for the entire 3 hours. We love you, Wakanda. We love you.
It was very informative. I'm learning about the Greeks and the Egyptians. I'm like, damn, I didn't know any of that.
Listen, and I didn't even go in deep into the Hindu stuff, but child, they don't give a care. Okay.
In other words, it's just us in America.
It's not even, I won't even say just America, because in the UK they have weird things too. But it's mainly Christianity that really is, and they're the newest one. Like, Christianity is literally the newest religion. And it's the one that's like, no, these are the rules now. I think Christianity is a Leo.
Don't put that on us.
I almost burnt my scarf and put my head in this damn candle. Listen. Puritanical. Yes, very much. Yeah, the Puritans, they all came from freaking Europe. They some prudes over there too. Prudes. This conversation was amazing. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate you. We appreciate your in-depth comments and your perspective on some things. It was very helpful. Thank you for the Larry Craig thing, because it was gonna mess me up because I couldn't remember what that name. Right. was. So go Google Larry Craig if you don't know about him, because that whole thing was a mess. Thank you, Angel. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Wakanda. I don't want to say it wrong. Carida, Goldilocks. Thank you, Goldilocks. Thank you to everybody in the coven. I know Priestess Almost Shule was still in here. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much. Next Saturday is Lovers and Friends. So again, make sure that you hit the little bell on that video so you get alerted as to when it starts. If you're in the coven, Obatala class is on Tuesday, and we have a full moon working tomorrow. That will also involve Obatala because tomorrow is Osei Obatala. So, yay! Our daddy just be everywhere. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you all for coming. And remember to keep your head so high you don't even see the haters.
Love that.
It's my favorite. Bye-bye.